ammunition as a result of it. So the absolute fear, and I mean, and we're going to talk about stop and search today in schools. What is the apprehension about it? Why do people worry that, you know, you walk through a scanner and it goes off, it says you've got metal, or it doesn't go off? I don't see what the problem is, why schools shouldn't, as a matter of course, have a scanner device on the entry points going in and out of school. Would you object to that?
No, I wouldn't object to that, because it can't be the responsibility of the teacher.
No.
The teacher's got enough to do without now checking for knives as well. Let us know what you think this morning, gbnews.com/yoursay. Well, meanwhile, a gun amnesty is underway for particular types of weapons, with owners being urged to hand them into police stations.
Tests found 4 brands of Turkish blank firing guns can be converted to fire live ammunition, meaning they're now illegal. Having become popular with criminal gangs, the amnesty is designed to take them out of circulation. Our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson.
OK, so on the table in front of us, we have top venting blank firearms.
This month, owners of specific blank firearms are being urged to hand them in to police stations. The specified brands are the Turkish guns Rite, Ekol, Sionic and Blow. And the National Crime Agency say they've been used in at least 4 killings in the UK in the last 2 years. Tests on the weapons found they can be easily converted to fire live ammunition using common DIY tools and without the need for specialist skills. Therefore, they're illegal under the Firearms Act. Detective Chief Superintendent Peter Henrick is head of the National Ballistics Intelligence Service.
And this is an example of another one you can purchase, which is, again, a top venting blank firearm. You cannot discharge a projectile. However, after the criminals have converted, this is the same gun converted. You can still see the blue patent of this, but now it's capable of shooting a projectile and causing injury and death.
An amnesty for owners of the weapons is taking place until the 28th of February, meaning they can be handed in without the risk of prosecution. However, possession of one of the guns after this period could mean a prison sentence of 10 years. Assistant Chief Constable Tim Metcalfe is from the National Police Chiefs Council.
We're seeing the prevalence of the Turkish weapons being used in crime more and more. So last year, 86% of criminal or recovered converted bank firearms were within those four makes. We believe there are thousands out there. One operation alone at the tail end of last year recovered over 400 of these weapons from one organised crime group. We did the testing just before Christmas. We found that they were readily convertible and therefore moving quickly with this amnesty to remove them from public circulation and deny criminals access to these weapons so that they're not able to convert them and commit serious criminal offences with them.
Importers and traders have been told to stop selling them, and Border Force are now on alert and will seize further importations of the specified models. Police say removing these guns from circulation is a significant step and better protects the public. But with these guns so embedded in organised crime, what impact will the amnesty have? Jack Carson, GB News.
Coming up to 6:07, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, will join forces with a former Conservative minister to set up a council on Islam and free speech.
Well, it's expected to be made up of 16 members who will tackle Islamophobia and aid the government in officially defining it.
Well, this comes as the Deputy Prime Minister has faced backlash after giving 6 councils the green light to raise their council tax by up to 10%.
Well, with us now to discuss this is political editor of The Spectator, Katie Balls. Good to see you this morning, Katie. And tell us about this plan by Angela Rayner, then, to create a council on Islamophobia.
Yeah, so this goes back to an all-party parliamentary group definition of Islamophobia, which long before the Labour Party was in government, they adopted. But the question is, will the government now adopt this definition? And if so, what are the ramifications? And Angela Rayner has this council. They're going to consult on it. Dominic Grieve, the former Tory MP, he is is going to be on the figures involved, apparently. And I think where the debate is if you go back to the definition from this all-party parliamentary group, at the time there are warnings that the definition was far too broad and it would go beyond just stopping Muslim hate speech and trying to clamp down on this, and could actually curb freedom of speech and become a de facto blasphemy law. Wherefore you couldn't really criticise religion or the Muslim faith, even when it is more of a freedom of speech angle, as opposed to something that you could say is, hate speech towards someone. So if Angela Rayner was to bring a definition, and it's not clear if it would be the definition already on the table or a different one, I think there'll be a lot of criticism probably from the Tories, Reform and others that this is going beyond the scope of what they claim it does.
And Robert Jenrick has said exactly that. This is the Trojan horse for a blasphemy law protecting Islam. He's actually gone further, saying that this Labour government displays an Orwellian disregard for freedom of speech. What do you make of that?
Well, I think the freedom of speech, you can go broader in terms of some of the things that the government first did, on freedom of speech on campuses. Bridget Phillips had to row back slightly on the paused freedom of speech from the Tories. So I think that Labour have always been a different place to the Conservatives on this. And I think the question is just what does it set in motion? Because obviously you have all these debates going on at the moment when it comes to lots of issues where people don't feel as though they've been able to say what they think. So you go back to the grooming gang scandal, for instance, and Pakistani gangs, people felt they couldn't talk about this. If you have one of these definitions, there is a risk that, legitimate conversations about concerns in communities, integration, start to go off the table if you get the definition wrong.
So when you think about it, then how much of this is about securing a vote, a Muslim-based vote for the Labour Party, as opposed to protecting religion and religious rights?
So we know that the Labour Party, when it comes to their voter base, has won lots of Muslim votes in the past. But obviously that relationship has been tested. And I think if you think about the Gaza-Palestine position, Labour has an issue with their Muslim vote. And you saw that in the most recent general election, all these pro-Gaza independents. So I think the party does feel it has to do a lot of work to get those voters back, and they want to get those voters back. On this, I'm not sure if this is seen as, the big vote winner to do that. But, of course, I think it would be popular with certain groups that feel as though that they, do receive criticism or, stoking tensions. So it could play to that.
I thought, all religions, it was an offence to be deliberately offending to other religious views anyway. I thought this would have been already taken care of. And last week I read, and I didn't know this, that Poland, 500,000 people took to the streets of Poland, and then they declared that Poland was a Catholic state. And that was the way we are Church of England, the way. So one wonders, well, right, the Church of England are the bosses, or they're supposed to be. Why are we worrying about everybody else? This is fundamentally a Christian country. Why are we worrying about what views Muslims have?
Well, I think on that, I suppose there are a large number of Muslims in this country, of course, and I think that if you look at, there have been obviously some hate incidents against Muslims. You also have a question about whether Christians feel they can have their freedom of speech. But you recently had a Labour MP at Prime Minister's Questions almost ask for a blasphemy law in their question and saying, this country is too divisive, you need to look at this. And Keir Starmer did not knock it down. He didn't really answer the question, which is why I think this, is something where, in terms of the Labour government, I think that when you look at all the language, so when there ever is an incident, they're very keen to talk about how they need to stamp out hate towards the Muslim community. And they clearly see this as a very live issue. And I think that's why you can see Angela Rayner being on a path where they could bring this in.
OK, your views very welcome. Let us know what you think, and we'll reflect that throughout the programme this morning.
Thanks,
Katie, for the moment, thank you very much indeed.
Now, this leads us on to our poll of the day. Today we're asking, is Angela Rayner fair to let English councils raise tax bills to avoid bankruptcy? This is on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today. 3 million people are facing council tax rises of up to 10%, and 6 councils in this country, the ones that are struggling the most, have actually got permission to raise tax even higher than that without a referendum.
I've said this before, don't give us percentage on this, talk about the average amount. So if you pay, I have no idea what I pay in my council tax, if it's £1,000, if it's £3,000, whatever. So rather than talk about 10%, we're saying facing an average of £300 rise. We've got to make this, real
well,
to people.
An average council tax bill in 21 areas, expected to exceed £2,500.
So that's 200 quid you're looking for in
2,500, yeah.
The thing about the tax burden in this country, no one seems to say, well, let's just stop spending. It's just like tax people more and more and more and every which way they can. Do you not realise that it comes a limit that people haven't got any more to give?
Yeah. What are they getting for that money as well?
What are you getting for it? It's, you know, I don't see, we don't get litter collection. No. We don't get, you know, graffiti. Potholes filled in, graffiti wiped off the walls. Oh. The state of most of our neighbourhoods is quite grotty, really, really grotty, and they'll say it's not affordable to clean that. Well, where is the money going? What is happening with it? What are we getting for our 10% council tax rises? We'll bring you the results throughout the day, and the final result at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and that will be reflected here on Martin Dobney's show.
Yeah, if you want to get involved, just head to gbnews.com/poll. Now let's get a check on the weather, shall we, with Aidan McGibbon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds and blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year. And in fact, it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best sunshine across England and Wales. 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south, and that's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Do you know when you sit and shiver, just looking at the weather there, if you actually shiver and you feel your bones quaking?
Yeah, I feel like that's me every day.
Well, according to Bristol University, that says because joint pain means that you're actually sensing, you have this primeval ability to sense when bad weather is on the way, and your body will warn you about it. There will be increased discomfort before cold fronts actually strike. So there you are. It's a natural warning system.
Oh, there you go. My warning system is very alert then, I think. I'm always shivering.
But it's always bad weather, isn't it? That's why.
Well, that's true. Very, very true. Do you ever use that phrase when you're cold to your bones, when it gets into your bones, when you've been outside too long?
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? And then you have to have a hot bath or something to warm up.
Well, I hope your bones aren't too cold.
I'm all right in here, actually,
today. That's another thing. People can't afford to turn on their heat, or they don't turn on their heat, or there's rows within the family about when the heat should be on or when it shouldn't be put on. But then Angela Rayner will stick your council tax up by 10%. What the heck? There we go.
Yeah.
The Great British Giveaway, maybe we can ease your problems here, because we have 2 amazing prize bundles to be won.
Yes, and each bundle contains a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store and £10,000 in tax-free cash. So do you fancy your chance to be one of our 2 winners? Here are all of the details that you need. Yes, good luck. Do stay with us still to come. Paul Coit will be here with all your sport. That's next.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
That's football.
Well,
you know,
it's
the hope that kills you.
It does. It gives you highs, it gives you lows. I mean, if you're an Everton fan at the moment, you probably had far too many lows. But as you know, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan.
Well, you must be having a huge high.
But you had one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the game, right? And that was Dixie Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. William Ralph Dean. Didn't like being called Dixie, but that was his nickname. And he was born in 1907. He was my grandfather's best mate. I'm an Everton shareholder. I've been, attached to the club all my life, and so was my father, so was my grandfather, our greatest ever player.
So back in the day when players like Dixie Dean were playing football for big crowds in, a proper...
72,000.
Yeah, a proper working class sport back in the day, weren't it, football? Not like it is today. You've got to be pretty wealthy to afford a ticket.
Even in the 70s, right, and I've seen some, I do like looking back on the football that I watched as a kid. Even in the 70s now, I've seen pictures of the turnstiles, as we used to call them, with a sign at the top, 5 shillings for the Eastern Terrace. 5 shillings. Yeah. Last time I turned down a ticket to go to a football match was Arsenal, who wanted me to pay £830 for a seat in an executive lounge. And though I could have afforded it, because I've worked all my life like you, I just thought at that point, that's ridiculous.
Well, you should have told him you were Keir Starmer's security man. You'd have probably got him for nothing.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But you go back to the the 1930s and 1940s, even the 1960s and 70s. The footballers would walk to the ground and play a game, and then walk back and go for a few beers in the pub.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This murder at school, this knifing, has really got you thinking. I think it's got a lot of people very frightened this morning. Lauren says, what a sign of the times. When I was a child, school gates were wide open. I didn't know any that were closed.
Yeah, and now we're talking about metal detectors in schools. John says, morning, Eamonn and Ellie. I've always said that there should be straight 5-year jail time for anyone carrying a knife. No time off with good behaviour.
See, I absolutely agree, John. If you spell,
that's the only deterrent.
If you spell the message out, I mean, why? I was talking to Ellie about when I was at school and just little minor misdemeanours, and you knew you did not cross that line because the consequences would be absolutely horrendous if you did. And here you've got people who are prepared to carry knives without thinking there's any consequence to it at all. There was the girl yesterday who was sentenced after stabbing 2 of her teachers in the playground. She came to school with this massive, complicated blade and think, what, there's no consequence to that? Of course there should be.
No,
Ellie said, my son and his children live in Sheffield. The whole city is in mourning today. A dark day. We used to be so proud to be different from America, and there's school shootings. Look at us now.
It just feels like every day there's a new story, isn't there? And Donnie says, my daughter's friend was stabbed on a night out. It was an accident. She was wrongly targeted and she is OK now. But it does show you how easy it is to die at the hands of a knife. No one is safe, it seems.
So keep those coming in. Thank you very much indeed. It's good to hear how you think on things and tell us your tales at school. Just terrible, terrible what happened to this young lad yesterday, and we're going to be covering it lots more throughout the programme today.
Yeah.
Right now, we go to Paul. He's reflecting what happened on the sports front last night, and it was transfer deadline day.
Transfer window shut at 11 p.m. last night. So we're thinking, is there going to be these last-minute deals? I was up there waiting to see what was going on, to see if I could find anything happening late. Not too much, although...
A lot of loans, Paul, I noticed, instead of money actually exchanging hands.
But there seems to be these days more loans than anything else. It's almost like, well, we'd like to try you before we buy you. So if you can come over and we can loan you out. It's like Marcus Rashford we spoke about yesterday. He's gone from Manchester United to Aston Villa. That's a loan. And often there's different deals within the loan. There's sometimes a loan fee and then a certain % of the wages. Usually the idea of a loan is that a club can get them off their books, go to somewhere else, and then they pay the wages, but they still hold the registration. So Man City, they were the biggest spenders across this transfer window. So £185 million. I mean, they're in the point now where they're thinking, we've got to do something. We need to get some players in. It's a situation where it looks like players are getting old. Something's not working. So they can afford it, though. So they made a net profit of £110 million. They sold some players as well, so they can afford to spend that. Nico Gonzalez, there's Nico, that was put on their social media yesterday. £50 million midfielder. He's the big signing from yesterday for Manchester City. Spurs signed a kid called Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich. Now, he's actually on loan, but then with an option to buy. So it's another one of those sorts of deals. Although it seemed like he'd actually turned Spurs down. Did you hear about this about a week ago? Said, you know, he's 19 years old, striker, thought, I don't really fancy Spurs. I like the look of Manchester United, like the look of Arsenal.
Yeah, Spurs weren't going to buy him. They're only going to loan him. United were going to buy him. Yeah. And now he's going back to Spurs on a loan.
Well, do you know what happened? There was a Zoom call.
Oh.
Now, I'm not going to say who was on the Zoom call, but I'll give you a clue. He was looking down there, obviously, on the Zoom call and saying, can you see me? Can you see me at the moment, dear Matthias? And so he's gone, mate. And he spoke to Ange Postecoglou.
The boss man.
And Ange said, come to us. And he said, OK, that's fine.
And talking about fees, I mean, with the Marcus Rashford, it's a loan with the option to buy in the summer. But United are only looking 40 million. There's a guy I've never heard of signing for City for 50 million.
Yeah, but the thing is with Marcus Rashford, it's costing so much money in wages, and also they want rid. They don't want him there, and they want him off the books, and they need that wage bill gone as well because it's all this profit sustainability.
300 grand a week.
Crystal Palace signed Ben Chilwell on loan from Leicester. Let's have a look. I mean, there's all these videos and all these social media posts. Have a look at this. This is Ben Chilwell.
Hi guys, Chilly here. Absolutely delighted to get the deal over the line. So, yeah, can't wait to see you all at Selhurst Park, and looking forward to meeting everyone.
So you weren't happy with Chilly?
No, I didn't love the fact he introduced himself there as Chilly.
Hi, Chilly here.
Hi, Chilly here.
How's it going?
No. I didn't love that.
Do you think if there was a TV news transfer deadline day, do you think we would be in, there would be bids coming in for us?
Millions and trillions.
I think the deal would be done early. They wouldn't leave it to the last minute.
Risk it.
See, I was staying up till 11 o'clock just in case I get the call. Nobody interested again. So I'll continue. Now, my favourite one, Burnley have signed Marcus Edwards. Now, Marcus Edwards, he's a fantastic young footballer. He's English and he played at Spurs as a youngster and he's playing over at Sporting Lisbon and he's been signed by Burnley. Now, Burnley have probably come up with the best transfer video for Marcus Edwards. So this is how they announced it on social media yesterday.
Transfer window shuts in less than 12 hours. You don't understand.
Try to understand!
Is there any way that we can please get off this...
No! Oh my God! Did you get off the plane? Did you get off the plane?
I'll go off the plane.
You got off the plane.
Up the carrot.
The fans are like that.
You know what? I love it when footballers try to act to go, I got off the plane. Now, can you just do it one more time? I got off the plane. So I loved it. I thought it was really good. It was something a bit different.
But
anyway.
It had to be good because, you know, he lives in Lisbon.
Yeah.
Beautiful place, Lisbon.
Beautiful.
Burnley.
Yeah.
Not say it's not a beautiful place, but I mean, the weather would
very
be...
different.
True.
Very different.
And also, some people would say that Marcus could probably go to a better club. I mean, we're not Burnley knockers. I swear we're not Burnley knockers. But he's decided not to go.
Sounds like you might be a Burnley knocker.
Do you think I'm a Burnley knocker? I don't want to be a Burnley knocker.
No, I was very impressed with Burnley. They did that whole Netflix series or whatever with, what's his name, who used to be at Man City and has gone. Where's he gone? The manager, the fullback.
Who are we talking about? Oh, yeah, right, yes, of course. Yeah. Company. Vincent Company.
Vincent Company,
oh,
the very
thank
man.
Goodness.
Well
that
done
could have been my whole credibility just out the window there for a second.
Well done you.
I'm no longer a Burnley knocker. In fact, we're a pair of Burnley knockers, aren't we?
No,
of course
good.
we are.
OK.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look at Chelsea, West Ham.
Oh, yeah, quick word on Chelsea, West Ham. Quick word, Chelsea, West Ham. Chelsea beat West Ham, back into the top 4, Chelsea.
So I think they're fortunate.
I think they were fortunate as well. I think they were fortunate as well, absolutely. And I've got one more very quick one for you. Very quick. Gillingham have announced their goal of the month competition winner at the Priestfield Stadium on Saturday for January. The announcer announced it and said the winner is Doug Tharm, which doesn't mean a lot to anybody, but the fact is Doug plays for Grimsby because Gillingham scored no goals in December whatsoever, so they've had to give their goal of the month winner, it's an own goal, from Grimsby. So that is Gillingham's goal of the month.
Oh, wow. OK.
And I'm not a Gillingham knocker either, I'll tell you.
We'll have Jonathan Ashworth, we'll have Anna Firth, 2 former MPs, and they're going to be reviewing the stories in the newspapers with us right after this.
Thanks for...
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Perth and Kinross, the A989 remains closed each way along Tay Street in Perth because of flooding. In Glasgow, the A77 remains closed at Pollock Shields because of flooding caused by a burst water main. In North Ayrshire, the A78 is closed northbound off the A737 towards the A71 at Irvine because of an accident in flooding. In West Yorkshire, the A672 is closed each way off junction 22 of the M62 at Rishworth Moor after an accident. In Cheshire, the A49 is closed at Weaverham because of a fallen tree. On the M25 in Essex, the inside lanes closed clockwise at junction 26 at Waltham Abbey after an accident causing delays. Trains aren't running from Woking and Hampton Court into and out of Waterloo Station in London, where overnight engineering works have overrun. And in Dorset, the A48 is closed southbound at Longham for emergency gas repairs. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're very welcome, we say very welcome to Anna Firth today, former MP, and former MP Jonathan Ashworth, who are here to review the papers. Lovely to see you both. And we should say Jonathan would be reflecting the Labour point of view almost, and Anna a Conservative point of view. You mustn't be too happy, though, today with this poll that's come out, which has Reform, Labour, and then the Conservatives. I don't know where the Lib Dems are. They've sort of disappeared. But you must have thought... I would have thought I could have beaten Labour in a poll at the moment.
It's interesting, all these polls, isn't it? Because actually, if you look at the by-elections that have happened since the general election, the vast majority of them, a huge number of those have actually been won by the Conservatives. So we're getting these horrendous polls, but when people actually go into the ballot box, so far, they're voting against Labour and they're voting Conservative, which is what I like to see, of course.
Well, you know what? I mean, I was reading Nigel Farage's interview in the Daily Telegraph over Christmas, where he said he likes the idea of the French healthcare system where you're charged for healthcare. Can you imagine paying thousands of pounds for a knee replacement or a hip replacement or a hernia operation under Nigel Farage's plans? So Labour's going to point this out, that's the Farage plan.
What he means is,
charges in the NHS.
Say you could pay. Are we not helping everybody by getting rid of the backlog and the waiting that goes on?
I don't believe that your viewers want to pay £12,000 for a knee replacement or thousands of pounds for a hernia operation. And that's Nigel Farage's plans. He's a health system that checks your pulse, checks your purse, rather, before it checks your pulse. And if that's Nigel Farage's plan, Labour's going to take him on day after day on it.
Anna, what do you make of 43% of Conservative supporters? This is in this YouGov poll as well. They'd be in favour of the Conservatives and Reform UK merging. What do you think of that?
I just think this is a bit of a false question at the moment, because Nigel Farage has made it very, very clear that he's not interested in merging with the Conservatives. In fact, I think he said that he actually wants to destroy the Conservative Party. So it's a bit of a non-question. You can't merge. You can't have discussions with someone who's saying they actually want to.
Because at the moment, Reform UK are splitting the right-hand vote. They are.
No, I agree with you.
It would be in the Tories' interest, would it not, to consider merging with Reform, considering they're doing better in the polls?
I completely see where you're coming from, but as a matter of practicality, it doesn't seem to me as if that is even on the table. But I totally agree with where you're coming from. Come the next general election, it would be crazy to have the right fighting the right. But that's why I'm saying that actually it's going to be very interesting, isn't it, to see what happens when people actually go into the ballot box in May, because actually I think people are so disenchanted with this Labour government, with all the lies that have been told during the general election, now all the tax rises, all the misery. I think people will actually say, right, the only real option is to actually vote Conservative.
So, you remember that there was the Conservatives had that coalition with the Liberal Democrats about 10 years ago or so. Do you remember that, Cameron and Clegg? Do you think you could have a coalition of Farage and Badenoch at the next general election, of those two parties teaming up together in a government? I think that's what they're planning, actually. I think you could see... And I think you could... I mean, who would really be the power there? It would be Farage, wouldn't it? Because Badenoch's sort of sinking like a stone, isn't she? And you could really see how Farage would influence it and be running the show then.
As I say, if Kemi was sinking like a stone, we wouldn't see the Conservatives winning by-election after... council by-election after council by-election. The reason that these polls are looking so bad at the moment is because the Conservatives have just just suffered a monumental defeat. People are not yet ready to come back to the Conservatives. They're looking for somewhere else to go, and they're really fed up with Labour. So obviously, at the moment, Reform is, is picking up that expression of frustration.
Anna, we'll just hold that thought. We'll take a very short break and then we'll be back with Jonathan and Anna after this weather update where the sun is shining throughout Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're looking for some winter sun, actually the Mediterranean's the place to find it. Plenty of sunny skies during the next few days, although Greece has seen some heavy rain, and that's clearing on Wednesday, followed by windy conditions through Wednesday, Thursday into Friday. Italy through the Balearics into Spain, Portugal and the Canaries, indeed plenty of sunny skies, and it remains that way until the end of the week when it does turn increasingly unsettled.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We were talking earlier about the issue of Siri listening to you. Well, it's not just your own conversations being sort of harvested for data, but it's a problem with AI. So what seems to have happened yesterday is that Apple issued a alert saying that Luke Littler had won the darts before he had. I mean, imagine what would, if he then gone on to lose, how that would have looked. I mean, obviously, because he went on to win, at least they got the story right, but before it had happened. So what it seems to happen is that the AI farms existing stories, and what it has done, that's the alert. We can see the alert there now, and it also claiming that Brazilian tennis player Rafael Nadal had come out as gay when actually a different Brazilian tennis player was actually mentioned in the original story. So what it does is you see that it's branded as BBC Sport. What the Apple AI system does is it farms alerts that it thinks people are getting from the source and then summarises them into one. That's going to be my question. Into one alert.
Looks to me like you would assume, OK, the BBC are reporting this.
Absolutely.
So the BBC News might be saying something else.
So it could happen to any news organisation.
This has highlighted a massive issue. I mean, having editorial judgment and quality control, because if this is going on, it's just contributing to the flow of misinformation. Yes. And we know that this is a problem on social media, people reporting false things. But if it seems to come from trusted news sources, that is a massive issue in credibility. I mean, if you had something like Reuters, who's a big news provider, doing this, you could hold people accountable, you could make changes, but when it's the AI doing it, I mean, what do? You're going to have to reprogram it in some way.
And if you just lost control, if you're a news source, you've lost control of what goes out, because it basically farms it, puts your logo on it and sends it out even when it's nonsense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Princess.
We're all shocked and we're all taken aback by events, Jonathan, in Sheffield with the murder of that young schoolboy today, and we're dealing with the repercussions of it today, and a man has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Just terrible. What have you got to say about that?
I mean, it's absolutely so tragic, isn't it? And how many more times are we going to wake up and hear a story about a teenager, usually a teenage boy, murdered through knife crime by other boys of a similar age.
Do you have any objection with a metal scanner, a metal detector at the entrance of schools?
I mean, not really, but God, I mean, I've got 2 daughters, as you know, I talk about them on the show quite a lot. But I mean, I just can't imagine my 13-year-old going to secondary school and having to go through a metal detector. What has society come to when we've got to put up with that?
But you know what? You get used to it within 5 minutes. It's nothing. I mean, I just don't understand why we don't do it. I mean, because this knife crime, nothing is a deterrent to these people.
You're absolutely right, Eamonn. And it's been proven to work, because when Boris Johnson arrived in London as mayor, knife crime was one of the #1 things that he wanted to sort out, which was rife, and it was the same thing. And he did a massive purge and put knife arches in all schools. He also had a big purge on education, a big purge on voluntary services, so that the young people have got something better to be doing with their time, and it worked. So for goodness sake, let's just get those knife arches up.
I just think, Jonathan, when you think about, you're packing up your homework or filling your bag, going to school, you think, oh, yeah, and I'll bring this knife as well. What does it take to have that pre-thought that that's what you're going to do? Why would you bring a knife to school? I mean, I think the deterrent, the message must not be getting out there that you're going to say, you do this and you're really going to suffer from it.
I'll tell you another thing I would do if I was the heads. I would have all the parents in, and I would be saying, every morning I want you to be checking your children's rucksacks. And if there's something in the rucksack, then you get the parents back in, and they need to be held accountable as well.
The thing is, the stop and search is not getting to the root of the issue, which is why are children opening up their school rucksack and putting a knife in it? Why are children carrying knives as young as 10 years old?
I know. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? And also, it's how easily accessible some of these horrible knives are. You can go onto the internet right now and buy some of these dreadful machete knives and get them sent to your home with no checks. In theory, you're supposed to be checked, but they never really get checked. But of course, it's not just the machetes, it's also people getting hold of the kitchen knives as well and bringing them in school.
That's the biggest problem. I totally agree with you that we need to get because that's one of the things I did in Parliament was get a wide-scale ban on zombie knives. But
that's what they're called, aren't they?
Zombie knives. They've got to go. And the police now do have the powers to take them out of people's homes as well as off the streets, which they've obviously already got. But the big problem is the kitchen knives, because most knife attacks are still using a kitchen knife. And one of the things, I actually agree with Idris Elba on this. My brother's a bowel surgeon, and he has told me for years we do not need to have knives in our kitchens with sharp points. Most of the things we do with a knife, cutting up bread, cutting up chicken, carving your Sunday roast, veggies, most of it you do not actually need a point.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I guess because you're using the side, aren't you?
Most of you think about it. Well, tonight, try it, Eamonn.
So it's sharp, but it's only sharp on the underside, not on the end.
Yes, I'm not saying you wouldn't...
you have like a square, a flat end,
and it goes like
if you like.
It goes like that. And it wouldn't eliminate all knife crime. You could still do a nasty injury.
But it would help,
but it would stop that action, which is so dangerous.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Angela Rayner, Jonathan, she looks as though she's going to give this thumbs up to council tax increases of 10%. Councils are in a bad way, their finances are in a bad way, but then people are in a bad way, and at 10%, we reckon it'll be an average of about 200 quid or so increase in your council tax bill a year. No alternative?
Well, look, I mean, obviously nobody wants to pay an increase in their council tax, especially when everyone is feeling pretty skint at the moment. But at the end of the day, a lot of these councils are under so much pressure. Some of them have gone bust. They're often under pressure because of the social care costs, where increasing numbers of people need social care, increasing numbers of adults with disabilities need care. It's not just about elderly people like it sometimes gets presented in the media. It's also about, more and more adults who need support as well, and it puts huge pressure on their finances.
And people think they just put their fingers in their ears or whatever, and social care costs will go away. Unfortunately, they won't. We go to the Minister of State for Health, Karen Smith. We say good morning to her this morning. Hello, Karen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Karen, today you're going to talk about artificial intelligence breast cancer scans. Who's going to receive these, and what difference will they make?
Well, this is a huge clinical trial that we're announcing today. Hundreds of thousands of women who will be ordinarily going for their breast cancer screening will be taking part in this trial. We hope they do. And the real difference it makes is having less clinicians involved in the work of the scanning and looking at those results, using AI to do that, freeing up more clinical time and making that happen faster, getting those results back quicker, and then hopefully treating those women that need treatment.
How long will this trial take place for?
We'll start recruiting very quickly. It's part of what's called the National Institute for Health Research. They will start recruiting women quickly. I think we're looking to up to 700,000 women, so that will take some time to get going. We screen 2 million women a year, so we should get to that number fairly quickly and then be able to analyse those results. So it's really exciting use of AI, because I think we talk about AI in sort of general terms, but being able to bring something of this size to this number of women, I think is a really exciting development on World Cancer Day, and I think will bring a lot of relief to women who are worried about this and going through those scans and tests.
Yeah, this is a really exciting development, so I'm sure you're going to keep us abreast on any developments with that.
It is.
Can I ask you about Sir Keir Starmer? Reports the past few days that he met his voice coach in person at Labour HQ on Christmas Eve 2020. Now, you will know, and he will have known as well as one of the top lawyers in this country previously, that there were strict Tier 4 restrictions in London at the time. Not legally binding measures, but they were strict guidance. He would have to resign, wouldn't he, if he'd made a breach of lockdown rules, even if they were historically?
Well, I think what we're seeing again is more mudslinging by the Tories on this issue at a time when they were partying, and we've got all the evidence of that and the sorry tale of that. Keir was working. Working was allowed in Tier 4 in London at that time.
Well, no, the full list of those that were allowed to be working were frontline health workers, which are doctors and nurses, teachers and social workers, key public services, government workers, food production workers, public safety workers, air and rail transport workers and utilities. So where do you think the voice coach fits on that list?
So my understanding is working, and Keir was working at that time, preparing for interviews and so on in the run-up to, I believe it's 2020, wasn't it? So the run-up to those Brexit discussions and leaving and interviews for that. And that was a working event at the time when we know that what the Tories were doing, partying, that's well documented. It's a sad and sorry tale of that time, and I think this was more mudslinging on their behalf.
But he broke the rules by meeting with someone who wasn't on the key worker list, and a voice coach, as I've just read out that list, is not on that list. He said, this is Sir Keir Starmer, made a pledge and a promise that if he was found to have broken the rules during the Beergate controversy in Durham in 2021, he said he would resign. So if he is found to have broken the rules, and there's some suggestion that he has, should he resign as Prime Minister?
Well, I think this is all hypothetical and speculation. It's the same MP that started that last investigation that is starting this one. We want to get on with changing the country. That's why I'm here today talking about cancer that affects one in two. Half of us are going to get cancer. Some of us have had diagnosis of cancer in the last year. I think that's what the country wants us to get on with. That's what Keir is focused on, the future, getting us treated, getting us through those waiting lists faster. And those are the things that are really occupying us at this time.
Well, good luck to you in trying to achieve that, Karen. Appreciate Karen Smith is a health minister. Thank you very much indeed. Back here in studio, Jonathan Ashworth and Anna Firth. Anna, what do you think about Keir Starmer's essential worker on Christmas Eve?
I think absolutely shame on him. He has spent years criticising Boris Johnson and the Conservatives for breaking lockdown rules, which I don't condone in any way whatsoever. And now we find out he's doing exactly the same thing. And on Christmas Eve, how can he possibly be arguing that he needed to see a voice coach on Christmas Eve? The whole thing is laughable. And these were the words of a Labour briefing line issued in 2020 when he was first accused of breaking the rules. He is Mr. Rules. And he said it time after time in Parliament that he had not broken any rules. And this isn't just guidance. This was the law. that you could not meet anybody who was not a key worker during Tier 4. This was the time when everyone was told that, really sadly, you're not going to be able to see your relatives over Christmas.
So is this a resigning issue?
Well, he's made it, according to himself.
He made a pledge.
According to himself, he made a pledge. So unless this is going to be yet another pledge that he breaks, yes, we've got to find out if the police are going to take action. That's the key. He said this is against the law, and if it is against the law, and if he is charged, then he should stick to his word.
Well, I mean, Anna says this is exactly the same as Boris Johnson. It most certainly isn't. I mean, Boris Johnson allowed more raves in Downing Street than a beefer, frankly. And what this was a member of his extended staff coming in to help him prepare for a speech. Now, I was the Shadow Health Secretary throughout that time. I was in Parliament every week because there were statements every week in Parliament, and you did have to have some of your staff in and around to help you prepare for your parliamentary...
Christmas Eve, Jonathan, you're seriously saying that you would have been preparing a speech.
Well, that's because we were sitting over that period to get Boris Johnson's Brexit deal through, because Parliament unusually was sitting in that period. We weren't having the Christmas break in the way in which we normally do. So if you're preparing a speech, you have your staff there. That's the point.
OK. Guys, thank you very much indeed. Some very interesting stuff to debate there. Your views are very welcome. Jonathan, and I'll be back in 45 minutes' time.
Now let's get a check on the weather, shall we, with Aidan McGibbon.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds, blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year. And in fact, it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best of the sunshine across England and Wales. 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south, and that's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Perth and Kinross, the A989 remains closed along Tay Street in Perth because of flooding. In Glasgow, the A77 still closed in Pollock Shields because of a burst water main. In North Ayrshire on the A78, the northbound entry slip road from the A71 at the Warwicks interchange in Irvine's closed because of an accident. In West Yorkshire, the A672 is closed off junction 22 of the M62 at Rishworth Moor after an accident. In Cheshire, the A49 is closed each way at Weaverham because of a fallen tree. Trains into and out of Waterloo aren't running through Surbiton, where overnight engineering works have overrun, and trains through Tolworth have been stopped after a vehicle hit a bridge. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour, and queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Dorset, the A348 is closed southbound along Ringwood Road in Longham for emergency gas repairs. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
And good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Knife crime, school horror, as a 15-year-old boy is stabbed to death at school.
And another teacher is arrested on suspicion of murder as parents ask, are our schools safe?
A community in mourning. Tributes have been laid here at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield as the police investigation continues.
Owners of specific blank firearms are being urged to hand them in to police stations.
As a damning new report asks if it's time to introduce stop and search in schools. We'll debate that later.
The Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner eyes up a new advice panel to tackle Islamophobia. But after she approved eye-watering council tax rises, are her priorities out of kilter?
Baby serial killer Lucy Letby's legal team promised to release groundbreaking evidence today in a bid to challenge her convictions.
Labour Party is forced to deny Sir Keir Starmer broke lockdown rules during COVID after he hired a voice coach.
This is all hypothetical and speculation. It's the same MP that started that last investigation that is starting this one. We want to get on with changing the country.
Princess Catherine releases a new photo for World Cancer Day taken by one of her children. Can you guess which one?
And in the sport, the January transfer window finally shut at 11 p.m. last night. Manchester City were spending the most. Chelsea beat West Ham last night to go fourth in the Premier League. And former Liverpool captain, now of Ajax, Jordan Henderson, got very annoyed at Dutch journalists.
Big changes are on the way for the UK's weather later this week, but for the rest of today, well, it's more wet and breezy weather coming from the west. I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning from me, Eamonn Holmes.
And me, Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Now, I consistently try to raise the standard of debate on this programme. Then you sit down with Paul Coyte and he wants to talk poo. Dog poo.
You know what? This drove me crazy yesterday, and it's one thing that's really bugging me, is that when taking the dogs out for a walk, people that leave their dog poo right in the middle
it's the worst.
Of the pavement.
The worst.
What are people thinking?
But it's not in a bag in the middle.
Not in a bag. You know what? It's bad enough if it's just a bag there, but just sitting there right in the middle. Why do people not pick up after their dogs? Do you have a problem? You'd never have a problem picking up a dog poo, because I've got a friend that goes, I can't touch it, I can't do it.
Well, it's my duty, it's my responsibility.
Yeah,
Correct.
don't get a dog.
Correct. And something like right in the middle. And it's driving me crazy, because the main thing is that even if it's there, I'm the one that will always stand in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate that. And then there's also the thing... But also there's the thing about I can't pick up someone else's dog's poo.
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird. I'm quite happy with my own.
Yeah.
But then, when I'm talking about the dogs, not my own, but obviously on the street. So then, to pick it up, it's just driving me crazy.
No, I get that. But worse, my friend.
Yes.
Particularly now in winter when there are no leaves on the trees.
Yes.
Is that people put their dog poo in a bag, and then they take the bag and they throw it up into the trees.
Yes.
And then
that's right.
The trees lose their leaves, so you get this time of the year and you just look up and there's trees just with they're like Christmas decorations.
Why are people catapulting bags of dog poo into the trees?
Because people are filthy.
Yeah.
You've got to learn, people are dirty, people are filthy.
Yeah, and they don't know where to put them. They think, well, I don't want to walk the rest of this route whilst holding this bag.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And you're right, there are trees, dog poo trees.
Dog poo trees.
Yes.
It seems some sort of... And, you know, I always say to myself, if that's the way they look after their dog poo and everything else, goodness knows what their houses are like.
Absolutely.
That's what I think.
I'm horrified.
But you know what? I think their houses are fine. It's just the thing is that they're just so selfish. They'll look after their own, but when it comes to anybody else, they just...
Well, that's Paul's thought for today, and you're very welcome to respond to it. And we should say today you have been responding to this school stabbing, which we're going to start with today. Gordon says, I went to school in the 60s. Nobody carried a knife. One guy I knew had a surgeon's scalpel, though, but never used it. All our scraps were with fists, so no one thought of pulling a knife out. It was considered cowardly.
Yeah, and Harry says, I had loads of scraps at school. I won some, I lost some, but I still remember them vividly. But again, using your fists, not a weapon. Well, we're talking about this because the most horrific news that you're waking up to this morning, a 15-year-old boy has died after being stabbed to death at a school in Sheffield. Now,
the young man has been named as Harvey Wilgoose. Harvey was a student at All Saints Catholic School, and a teenager has since been arrested on suspicion of his murder.
Well, we're joined now by GB News Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley. Good to see you this morning, Anna. We've just had a viewer email in, actually, from Sheffield who says that the whole community is in shock and mourning this morning.
Yes, Ellie, a community here in Sheffield truly in mourning, not just the parents at the school and the pupils affected by what happened yesterday, but the wider community. And that's certainly felt here outside the school this morning. You'll be able to see behind me the tributes that have been laid in honour of 15-year-old Harvey Wilgoose. This stabbing happened yesterday at the school. South Yorkshire Police were called here at 12:17 yesterday afternoon to reports of a stabbing, and Harvey sadly lost his life, with another 15-year-old arrested on suspicion of his murder, who remains in police custody. Now, yesterday South Yorkshire Police held a press conference. They said that Harvey suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. During the press update, Assistant Chief Constable Lindsay Butterfield said the force's officers are working at pace to build a full picture of how this tragedy has unfolded. This is what she had to say.
It is with great sadness that I share with you today a teenager has died following the stabbing at a Sheffield school earlier today. Our thoughts are with the family of the boy, his friends and the whole school community. At 12:17 p.m, emergency services were called to All Saints Catholic High School on Granville Road. The victim, a 15-year-old boy, suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. The 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in our custody at this time.
Police remain at the school today as investigations continue, and we've heard that it's not the first time this week that the school has gone into lockdown. It was reported that the head teacher sent a message to parents on the 29th of January saying that the reason for the lockdown was for threatening behaviour between a small number of students, where threats were made of physical violence. Now, we'll be here at the school throughout the morning, bringing more updates as we have them.
Thank you very much for that.
There's a story front page of the Times this morning which really has me annoyed. There it is, and those are the faces of the three people who were killed in the Nottingham stabbings last year. The NHS has refused to publish a report exposing failings in the treatment of this guy, Valdo Callacane. What's his name? Callacane. And who was a paranoid schizophrenic. But anyway, the newspaper is reporting that they have learnt that they're not publishing this to protect his human rights and his privacy on this, so they're not going to talk about the deficiencies with him or his treatment. He was discharged from treatment despite repeatedly failing to take medication, and his risk wasn't properly assessed, even though he showed signs of aggression. And again, it's the rights of the perpetrator as opposed to the victims, and there are the victims there on the front of the newspaper. Welcome to, I don't know how you would call Britain today, but I think Britain is broken. I really do think it's broken. It's incredible.
And those poor families as well. Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates, all fatally stabbed in June 2023. I wonder how their families are feeling this morning.
Angela Rayner is facing a backlash after giving the green light to 6 councils to raise their taxes by 10%, and that will impact on at least 3 million.
Well, it says that Angela Rayner looks set to team up with Conservative heavyweight Dominic Grieve to form a new council on Islam. It will focus on the rise in Islamophobia. Well, with us now to discuss this is political editor of The Spectator, Katie Balls. Good to see you this morning, Katie. And can we start by talking about council tax bills, which could rise by, we were working out, about £200 for millions of people?
Yes, and it's quite interesting, just going back to the 2 stories you mentioned, that Angela Rayner's taken over the whole front of the Daily Telegraph with 2 stories where she is being heavily criticised. But the council tax story is, of course, we just had, just before Christmas, a huge tax-raising budget, raising taxes that lots of voters did not know about in advance. Labour kept very quiet. And now there's a news that, just if you thought that wasn't quite enough, Angela Rayner has given permission for, I think it's 6 councils to go beyond what is the normal remit that a council can choose, which is 5% rise. And it means that there could be council tax rises up to 10% for if you live in certain areas, which I think you can probably predict the response of those who have to pay it.
What do you make on Angela Rayner creating a council on Islamophobia and, interestingly, lining up a former Tory minister in order to lead it?
So I think lining up the former Tory minister, Dominic Grieve, I think is clearly an attempt to say, oh, this isn't just a lefty endeavour and so forth. But Dominic Grieve isn't really seen as a true blue Conservative these days within the Tory party. He was seen as obviously very Remain during the Brexit period. So I'm not sure it particularly is going to play to the right having Dominic Grieve on there. And I think when it comes to this idea of an Islamophobia definition, it's something that the Labour Party and opposition have been supportive of. And there is an APPG all-party definition, which they adopted in opposition. Now, it's not clear that they bring this definition over, but the risk is that it could really limit freedom of speech, whereas people who say this is a good idea will say, well, it will stop, hate speech against Muslims.
What about hate speech that Muslims make?
Perhaps you'll need a different law for that one, a different definition. But I think there is a question as to, do you end up in a situation whereby, such as conversations on grooming gangs, could you talk about some of the problems on integration? Could you talk about Pakistani gangs? It's not clear, depending on what definition they brought in. You could really curb freedom of speech at a time when I think lots of people already feel as though they can't say very much, and that has led to lots of the problems we're seeing today.
Okay. Yeah, but basically governments and think tanks like this can do whatever they want. I mean, we look at those Nottinghamshire knifings last year, and the rights of the 3 people who died, secondary to the guy who carried out the murders there. So as long as they're OK, the victims don't seem to matter in anything.
Well, I think there's a growing sense in the country, isn't there, that the system has gone too much one way and the other, and some of that is legal creep, some of that is kind of human rights laws and rules around it, protecting identities. Can you deport certain people because of their right to family? But it does feel as though it's reaching, I think, a bit of a tipping point at the moment. With even within the Labour government, there is a debate at the moment about, you have Richard Hermer, who's Keir Starmer's old lawyer friend, who's Attorney General. He's seen as Mr. Rules, puts international law above lots of things. And then I think you have some around Keir Starmer, like Morgan McSweeney, his Chief of Staff, who are looking at the Reform Party, looking at some of the things we've spoken about and sensing this anti-establishment feeling in the country and wondering how you respond to that. So I think there is going to come a point where perhaps some of these things are going to have to be revisited.
Katie Bowles, good to hear from you. Thanks for your opinions. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Whatever you have to say, get in touch and let us know. And our poll of the day, Ellie's what?
Well, we're asking, is Angela Rayner fair to let English councils raise tax bills to avoid bankruptcy? We'll bring you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned. The final results, as always, will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show. If you want to get involved, head to gbnews.com/poll, or you can scan the QR code.
It's just turned 14 minutes past 7 o'clock, and fresh doubts have emerged over nurse Lucy Letby's conviction after police notes revealed she was absent for more than a third of the suspicious incidents at the Countess of Chester Hospital.
Well, a panel of experts are due to give evidence later today to a body that deals with miscarriages of justice.
Lucy Letby was convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 others.
Well, joining us now is CEO of Freedom from Abuse, Marilyn Hawes. Marilyn, Lucy Letby's team will be hoping, by bringing new evidence, that they can get a retrial. What do you make of this?
Well, I suppose if it's beyond reasonable doubt, then that has to happen. I mean, David Davis is a very balanced, fair man, and he always said at the start that if he was shown enough evidence, 75% that would convince him that there's something wrong here, then he would take this forward. So, I mean, my heart just breaks for the parents. Yeah. I mean, if you've lost a child, they've had to go through it twice and now again. I mean, they are now the real victims here, aren't they? I mean, there was an infection on the ward at the time that didn't come out, I believe, in the trial. The Countess, the Chester Hospital was known to take in very ill prem babies. And if you put those very ill prem babies on a ward where there's infection, you're upping the risk, aren't you? But what I don't understand is this Dr. Lee, he agreed to give evidence for Letby's appeal, but it wasn't allowed to go ahead. Now, Dr. Lee is a massively wonderful expert. He ran the Canadian neonatal network over 27 hospitals and 16 universities, so he certainly knows his stuff. And to look into this, it's all to do with the discoloration of the baby's skin, which he says wasn't apparent. That there's when you do this thing with pulling out the tubes and all of that, the air embolisms, it does cause some sort of discoloration. But he said that none of these descriptions of skin colorations in the nurse's case matched those characterising air embolism. So he's also brought in, to help him on this international panel, he's brought in from 6 countries, top of their game experts from the States, Canada, Japan, Sweden, Germany, the UK. And he allocated, each baby was assigned to 2 of these experts independently to review the case. So I don't know. I mean, in my heart, I think she's guilty. In my heart, I feel she's a psychopath. But, I mean, you have to... I mean, this will be her last chance, wouldn't it? I mean, I suppose you have to do it if there is doubt. I mean, this girl's been banged up for 15 life sentences. So, you know, if there is this doubt, if this obviously global expert says people misquoted him, misunderstood what he was saying, and he did print something in the American Journal of Perinatology, which the British journalist didn't print. And that's sort of slightly weird, isn't it? I mean, if you've done a global research, why didn't we publish it?
We may all have to rethink, it has to be said. I mean, today could be her first step towards walking free from jail.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the only person who knows the truth, of course, is her.
Yeah.
Now, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but it sort of crossed my mind at about 3 o'clock this morning. I thought, say on this point that didn't come out at the time properly at the trial, and these things do happen, don't they? On a technicality, someone, as you rightly say, Eamonn, comes out of prison. Say that happened and she is guilty. And there she is wondering, I mean, she'll never get to work in a hospital again, but on that technicality of discoloration of skin that didn't come out at the trial, or the right assessment of it, and she does walk, I mean, I wouldn't be wanting to walk in her shoes because there's a lot of angry people out there that absolutely do believe she's
Of course,
guilty.
her life, whatever happens, her life will never be the same again.
Oh, it'll never be the same again, no. And there's a lot of people out there that will find a way
we've got to
of
break
getting
away from you for time reasons, but thank you, as always. It's always really interesting to hear what you have to say. Marilyn Halls there. Thank you very much indeed. Aidan McGivern with the weather picture. Let's go to him.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds and blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year. And in fact, it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best of the sunshine across England and Wales. 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south, and that's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now we're giving you 2 chances to win, and our latest Great Wish giveaway, not 1 but 2 amazing prize bundles.
You're just making that up.
No, I'm
You're
not.
pulling my leg.
2 bundles.
2 bundles?
Yeah, each of them containing a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store, and £10,000 in tax-free cash.
You just couldn't believe it, but here it is.
Want to be one of...
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, more than 120 youngsters were found carrying knives in the first 6 months of last year.
Stop and search also showed that police found a 10-year-old child carrying a weapon, as well as a 14-year-old with a firearm.
Well, after a teenager was stabbed to death in school yesterday, we're asking whether the government should introduce stop and search in schools.
Ugh. Why is there this debate? Why don't we just do things? I mean, I grew up in a Northern Ireland where they just did things. They stopped you, they searched you, they pulled you over. They didn't have to have a reason. That's it. You get through it. It's fine. We'll all live. Joining us now to discuss this is teacher Bobby Siegel and former Detective Superintendent of Scotland Yard, Shabnam I can't read that, was
Chowdhury.
it? Chowdhury. Right, so Shabnam, very good to talk to you. Shabnam, where do you stand on this? Do you think this is a good idea or bad idea?
Look, I'm all for stop and search, and I'm also all for stop and search within schools, but it has to be within the confines of the law, so within the legislation that is already available.
OK.
What I don't agree with is a blanket stop and search for all children.
Right, well, let's see what Bobby's view is on that. There's Shabnam's position. What about you, Bobby?
Again, I've been in schools now teaching for the past decade, and generally what I say is that young people are quite adaptable. So in schools I've been in, we've had metal detectors at the gates, and students know what the routine is. They know when they're stopped and searched, why it happens. I think as long as it's clear and transparent why things are happening, young people do get on board, because ultimately they want to be safe. The parents want their children to be safe, and the communities want them to be safe. So as long as we do it in a way in which we don't damage trust within the community, I think young people want to be protected. And
Bobby,
teachers and
it's interesting you talk about these metal detectors in school, and it's standard for you guys. It's just normal for you guys. I'm just more surprised that all schools don't have these.
Yeah, I assume this probably has happened maybe because of there have been attacks within a community. There's been pressure by parent groups. But, again, I've seen that young people, you place metal detectors, you explain what it's for, they all pretty much get on board. So I would say, if you're the education secretary or the government, bring in metal detectors in every single school in the country. And I think we'll make things safer for young people.
Shabnam, what about the argument that you're not actually getting to the crux of the issue by starting stop and search in schools? You're not actually dealing with the fact that you've got children as young as 10 carrying knives.
Absolutely. And if you actually look at the statistics in the last decade, even assaults on teachers have doubled. So there's definitely an argument for ensuring that the appropriate measures are in place. In actual fact, the metal detectors and handheld ones and knife arches are standard. So actually, that's a rule of law within school, that if you don't want to go through those metal detectors or be scanned, then you don't come into school. So that's normally applied normally. But there are other issues within schooling. For example, the number of safer schools officers, police officers who've been reduced within the schools, having police officers outside the school in the morning and after school. Some of that has also been reduced. So there are other measures that need to be put in place. Kids, what they will do is they know they're going to be searched, so they'll hide the knives elsewhere. So there's got to be some stronger measures, exactly from starting from home, the education from home, and holding parents to account as well.
What's going on in our schools, Bobby? How are we talking about stop and search, talking about metal detectors outside schools? We're talking about police officers having to be stationed outside schools. Give us an insight into what your experience is like.
So generally, again, what I've seen is that sometimes, again, we got form groups lining up in the morning, say year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, etc. And then a teacher, normally a head of year, will come with a metal detector, as well as the sort of physical scanners. They'll come and check each student one by one, bag, check their persons. And students, they're completely nonchalant. They know it happens every single day. But I think with these measures, as long as you get buy-in from the community, and again, we talk about stop and search, but we also stop and search within the communities that these children live in, you always find when there's buy-in, they use community intelligence, and they work with the communities, people are always supportive. But it's when you work against them and they feel it's adversarial, things can go wrong.
And they did go wrong yesterday, sadly and tragically. But Shabnam, from what you're both saying, am I right in concluding that you both think with metal detectors, if they had been in place, this wouldn't necessarily have happened?
I don't think that necessarily could have been the case, but I do think there's a strong argument for having them within all the schools. And I think stop and search, intelligence-led, with reasonable grounds to ensure that all the children are safeguarded along with the teachers.
Thank you both very much indeed. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, the thing is, if it didn't happen inside the school, then it would happen outside, wouldn't it? It would happen at the bus stop or on the high street or on the way home. Doesn't actually solve children carrying knives, does it?
No, but it keeps them out of the school.
And it keeps them safe in school, I suppose. Well, let us know what you think this morning. gbnews.com/yoursay. Now let's speak to Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Richard Fuller, who joins us now. Very good morning to you, Mr. Fuller. And can we start by talking about President Trump and his tariffs? We've seen the threats on China, haven't we? We've seen the threats on Mexico. That's now going to be delayed for the next 30 days. But very much the threat of tariffs are over our heads at the moment. What do you make of Sir Keir Starmer choosing last night to dine in Brussels and discuss things like defence and security with the EU? Do you think he should be prioritising trade with the EU or prioritising trade with the US?
He should be prioritising British interests, and that was the point of Brexit 5 years ago, which is our leaders need to focus on what's in our best interest. If that's doing a trade deal with the United States, he should put his energies there. If it's about doing something in the EU that furthers our interests, then he should do that. Him popping over for dinner to the EU the same day as President Trump has himself said there's a difference between the UK and the EU about how the US will look at future trade relations, doesn't send a good signal to President Trump.
Yeah, and I think also Trump's got to wake up to the fact that a lot of the food that he wants to import into this country, Richard, just is not acceptable to the industry. Like, you know, farmers don't want the hormones that are pumped into a lot of the animals in America, and the food industry, the restaurants and whatever, don't want it either. That's just a small example.
Exactly. There are lots of things where, you know, we can have agreement with the US, but there's some important points, like the ones you mentioned, Eamonn, where there's a difference. And we need the Prime Minister to be able to negotiate those with the US administration. And I'm afraid, so far, the Prime Minister showed he's a very poor negotiator. He doesn't have the skills. And he's up against both the President Trump, who's a good negotiator. You can see that every day, even just today, with the changes that Mexico has made and the rollback of tariffs from Mexico because they got the point. With Sir Keir Starmer, we've got to ask ourselves, do we have someone in charge who has our nation's interests at his heart and who's a good negotiator to make sure those interests can get the best results for Britain?
Can I ask you about this YouGov poll out yesterday that put Reform UK top 25%, Labour 24%, your party in at third, 21% of the vote. What's your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction mostly is about, at the moment, is about the local elections that are going on week after week, by-election after by-election. The Conservatives are winning seats off seats, gaining seats off Labour, gaining seats off the Liberal Democrats. Those polls where real votes are being counted, the ones that I probably focus my attention on, rather than opinion polls that seem to change week after week.
Are you taking the threat from Reform UK seriously? Because you're looking at these polls, you cannot solve a problem like Reform and Nigel Farage because whatever you've been doing so far clearly isn't working. Reform are coming out on top.
Well, the threat is that if small c conservative-minded people who care about the future of their country, look at the mess that Labour is making of it in office, continue to split their votes between two parties, then we end up with another Labour government. And that's the problem, I think, for both parties. Right? There's so much that people on reform in the Conservative Party agree about. We don't want to make those differences part of the problem of continuing with this very socialist government.
What about Kemi Badenoch's net favourability in this poll, slipping to -29, below Farage on -27? Is that alarming to you, that she's not even popular as a character or as personality, and Farage is beating her in that department as well into this poll?
Well, what I know as sort of leading Conservative in my area, and I'm sure for Kemi as the leading Conservative across the country, is people still haven't forgotten the period of time that we were office and some of the mistakes that we have made. Kemi's been clear that we did make mistakes and we need to learn from those, and that under her leadership we will set a new course. And it's early days on that, and I think as the people get to learn more about her views, learn more about her plans for the country, they'll start to say, yes, she's the person we need to sort out the mess that Labour's making.
What do we need, Richard, to sort out this knife crime situation? It's our lead story today about the murder at the school in Rotherham yesterday in Sheffield. Tell me, what do you have a view on this, or how it can be stopped?
Well, I mean, I lived in America for some time, and they had even worse instances of school shootings. And it's such a tragedy. It traumatizes local communities because parents then have to send their kids to school the very next day or the week after. And it's always going to be in the back of your mind, can it happen another time at that school or another local school? I just worry that we always think national government's got the answer, that somehow if we put some people in Whitehall to think about it, the answer will come. Actually, maybe we should just make sure that head teachers have that power. They know what's going on in their local school. They know where there may be a risk. Maybe we should give more power to people who are, on the front line, closer than expecting national policies to be the answer.
Why didn't you do more when you were in charge? Knife crime risen by a third since 2010, between 2010 and 2024. It became an epidemic under your watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, people move from different things, and there was a number of knife amnesties. I know just from my own area, just before the election, there was a large collection of knives. And in the end, we can't stop people owning a knife or to have some way of committing a crime. What you need to do for our children is to make sure that when they're in school settings, that the person who's in charge of that school, the head teacher, feels that she or he have the full authority and the full capacity to ensure that children are safe when they're there.
Shadow's Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Richard Fuller. We've got to leave it there, Richard. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a short break there. We're back with what's in the papers, and we will do that after we have a look at where the sun is shining around the European resorts.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're looking for some winter sun, actually the Mediterranean's the place to find it. Plenty of sunny skies during the next few days, although Greece has seen some heavy rain, and that's clearing on Wednesday, followed by windy conditions through Wednesday, Thursday into Friday. Italy through the Balearics into Spain, Portugal and the Canaries, indeed plenty of sunny skies, and it remains that way until the end of the week. It does turn increasingly unsettled.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destination Forecast.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Perth and Kinross, the A989 remains closed each way along Tay Street in Perth because of flooding. In Glasgow, the A77 remains closed at Pollock Shields because of a burst water main. A couple of problems in West Yorkshire. The A672 is closed each way off junction 22 of the M62 at Rishworth Moor after an accident in the early hours of this morning. And the A62 is blocked by an accident on Manchester Road in Huddersfield, causing queues. In Cheshire, the A49 Warrington Road is closed off the Weaverham roundabout because of a fallen tree. In Northamptonshire on the A14, there's a lane lane closed eastbound. Someone's broken down between junctions 2 and 3 from Kelmarsh to Desborough, causing delays. There are delays of up to half an hour, with some cancelled trains into and out of Waterloo Station in London through Surbiton, where overnight engineering works have overrun, and on the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're bringing you this news now about Brian Murphy, the actor and comedian, best known for his role in the 1970s British sitcoms Man About the House and George and Mildred. He's died at the age of 92. He passed away at his home in Kent on Sunday morning, having worked closely with theatre director Joan Littlewood throughout his early career. More recently, he appeared in episodes of the BBC medical drama Holby City, sketch programme The Catherine Tate Show...
Have a new picture of Brian.
...as well as a comedy show, Last of the Summer Wine. We're now joined by Jonathan Ashworth and Conservative MP Anna Firth. Very good morning to both of you. Anna, what do you make of this news? Brian Murphy passing away at the age of 92.
Well, it's very sad, isn't it? But you know, he obviously lived a fantastically full life, and married to Linda Reagan, of course, from Heidi High. And her comment's really touching. She describes him as her absolute soulmate, and she'll love him forever. I mean, you can't ask for any more, can you, from a spouse who's been with you that long?
And of course, these shows are all repeated on satellite, on Gold as well, so he's still a regular face on screen. Right, self-service checkouts. Now, I don't know, Jonathan, if when you go to the supermarket, I avoid these like the plague. I just don't. I don't see it's my job. I think I've got enough to worry about. Let someone else ring up whatever I've bought. But it leads to temptation for people.
It certainly does. I use them, and I can't understand how you can get away with stealing out there. Are
you never tempted to forget?
No, certainly I'm not. But I just assume because you have to... How would you do it? Because I sometimes find if I've not scanned it and then I put it in the carrier bag, it doesn't it sort of beeps at you. Yeah. So I don't really understand how you can get away with stealing it.
And I thought there were cameras above your head.
At these things. But I mean, I think the last time I was on the programme, we were talking about this sort of epidemic in shoplifting.
Yes, we were speaking last week about Hazelmere, which is a lovely leafy town in Surrey, where it's middle-class, middle-aged women who are doing the shoplifting there, according to shopkeepers.
Yeah, and it says here it's men and people aged under 35 are the most likely to steal. The other thing I mentioned, I was actually, funnily enough, talking to him again just yesterday, as it happens. This issue that the boss of Iceland Supermarkets is raising, that he cannot put up the pictures of known shoplifters to say, look out for so-and-so, because it breaches data protection laws.
Well, look, worse than that is the story of the front page of the Times, the guy that carried out the knife attacks on those 3 people in Nottingham last year and killed them. And basically, he's been, the NHS here, Anna, is withholding all information to protect his privacy.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? You know, it's yet more woke nonsense, in my opinion. I mean, the knife crime epidemic in this country, I think it is one of the biggest policing challenges and biggest problems that we've got to confront. And reading that now that children are going into schools as young as 6 and 7, carrying knives.
So one at 10 with a gun.
Yeah. I mean, our whole emphasis has got to be on getting these knives off children. We've talked about this before, you know.
They're obviously not scared. There's obviously no deterrent. You should have the life literally scared out of them if they're with this thing that it's the end of the world for them. Of
course you should. And I remember talking to an ex-Met police officer about knife crimes. It's something, obviously, you know, succeeding Sir David Amess, it was something which was one of my #1 priorities and still is, frankly. And I remember her telling me that we only dealt with firearms in London in the 50s and 60s when children were taking firearms to school by having an absolute custodial sentence and 10 years. I think we're going to have to be much, much stricter on knife crime. The Axel Radukabana went into school 10 times with a knife and didn't end up being locked up.
Do you think that's part of the problem, Anna, that we're seeing it as a London problem and seeing it as a gang problem in London, when actually it's clear this is happening up and down the country?
I don't know, is the honest answer. We do know that, as we've discussed, that Boris Johnson tackled this in London and with a massive crackdown, with the knife arches, with education, with more voluntary things for children to do. It made a difference, and I think we should spread this out across
by a third under the Tories.
All right, we'll hold that thought and we'll hit the break and we'll be back talking more with Anna and Jonathan right after this.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Estelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This was thought to be a Ruskin. Ruskin was a very considerable polymath, an artist as well as many other things. So do you know why it was submitted for reappraisal? Was there a bit of a suspicion that it had been misidentified?
No, as you say, you know, it's a service that Christie's offer. You can submit an artwork that you have, so anyone can submit it and request an estimate, and then the auction house's appraisal service allows you space as well to describe it and ask for evaluation. And Christie's sort of looked at it behind the sheet of dirty old glass and recognised a sort of Turner-esque mood and feel and ambience about it. And because there was this close relationship between Ruskin and Turner, which is fascinating, we'll come on to that shortly, but they sort of felt, well, the brushstrokes are very strong, the line is very economic, and the colour of the palette seems to be rather Turner-esque. And then they called in a specialist paper historian who confirmed that actually the paper that was used was one that Turner favoured himself. So yes, it was originally considered to be by Ruskin, but then we discovered something more magnificent. And don't forget, what's really interesting, now it's for sale. The lucky buyer is not just buying a picture. The lucky buyer is buying a life story, a relationship that actually changed the course of art history because of the relationship between Ruskin and Turner themselves.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
With the papers, former Labour MP Jonathan Ashworth and former Conservative MP Anna Firth with this. Now, Jonathan, I want to talk about this is a serious thing. The SNP in Scotland apparently had a proposal to bring in a cat ban. It may not happen now, but this was a serious proposal.
I mean, it's crackpot. I mean, the SNP up there in Scotland were talking about banning people from owning pet cats in order to protect birds and other wildlife. I mean, I don't know if they've noticed, but I think from the beginning of time, cats have chased mice and tried to catch birds. It's what they do, and you can't ban them for it.
That is so true. We have actually got a mouse at the moment above our kitchen, and I'm bringing the cats in, my lovely 2 cats, every night. They're on duty.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Yeah.
And if someone tells me I'm not allowed to have my feline companions, they're going to have trouble on their hands.
I mean, some report was published by some sort of animal welfare organisation. The SNP government said they would be fully considering these recommendations from the Scottish Animal Welfare Commission, but it now looks like there's been such a backlash against this, because we are a nation of animal lovers. We like our cats. I have a dog, Nellie the cockapoo, but people like cats. And it sounds like John Swinney, he's the leader in Scotland, has backed down.
And the bigger point here, I think, is that here they are talking about cats and coming up with this nonsense when actually they've done nothing about sheep worrying in Scotland. Yeah, and their big wind farms apparently have quite a bad effect on wildcats, and they've done nothing about that. So, you know, talking about, you know, picking on something completely ridiculous, not dealing with real problems.
And what is the issue with cats, Anna? That why do the animal welfare people think it's cruel to have a cat indoors?
Oh, well, it is cruel to have a cat indoors because...
Yeah, but why are they banning it then? Or why would they think of banning it?
Well, they're banning them going outside. They're saying they want to keep them inside.
Really?
To protect wildlife on the outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
because the cats are after the mice.
So it's nothing to do about the welfare of the animals, to do with the welfare of the mice and the rats.
And the
rodents.
rats
It's not the welfare of the cats.
Yeah. They've done this crazy computation where they've come up with this number that cats are killing 700 million vertebrates.
Gotcha.
And where they've got that from, who knows?
So they'd rather have mice and rats running round the place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And their house
exactly.
And their cats need to be on house guard.
They do in my kitchen, I can tell you.
House arrest, that's what I'm trying to say. House arrest. Yeah, no.
But apparently,
that's cruel.
Apparently, they do something like this in Australia.
Yes.
They have
to protect the snakes and...
Oh, for goodness sake.
But as you said, Katie, it might be because actually it's dangerous for cats outside. In Australia. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. I thought
knows?
they might get eaten.
Meanwhile, apes, Jonathan, can tell how stupid we humans are. How are they doing that? What ability do they possess?
I've got absolutely no idea how they're doing it, but some scientists have worked out that a bunch of apes can spot stupid human beings. Well, I mean, maybe we should get some apes on the show sometime to talk about.
Along with your dog.
We could have a total sort of zoo here of cats, dogs, and apes. I mean, this is one of those sort of balmy things that come along every so often from scientists who, goodness knows who pays for the research into this, but they are saying that apes can spot a stupid human and can point out a human, can read the minds of a human and through its actions, point to a human and indicate to the human being the error of the human's ways.
You know, at one stage in the future, I believe that we will all be like Dr. Dolittle. We will realise that we can talk to the animals and they can talk to us. And a skill that we didn't know existed is there, that horses can communicate to us, cows can communicate to us, dogs, cats, apes, whatever. And that awaits us sometime in the future. I think I watched marvellous videos on Instagram about all of this. But anyway, we must deter from this. Jonathan, thank you very much indeed. And Anna, appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's have a check on the weather now with Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds and blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year. And in fact, it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best of the sunshine across England and Wales. 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south, and that's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Perth and Kinross, the A989 remains closed along Tay Street in Perth because of flooding. In Glasgow, the A77 remains closed at Pollock Shields because of a burst water main. A couple of problems in West Yorkshire. The A672 is closed each way off junction 22 of the M62 at Rishworth Moor after an accident in the early hours this morning. And the A62 is blocked by an accident on Manchester Road in Huddersfield, causing queues. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, 2 lanes are closed plotwise just after junction 24 at Denton Island after an accident. Queues towards and past there. In Cheshire, the A49 is closed along Warrington Road at Weaverham because of a fallen tree. In Staffordshire, the A50 is partly blocked westbound at the Mere Tunnel interchange at Stoke-on-Trent, causing delays. And in Northamptonshire on the A14, there's a lane closed eastbound where someone's broken down halfway between junctions 2 and 3 from Kelmarsh to Rothwell, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good luck. Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there, good morning. This morning we lead with the knife crime school horror yesterday. A 15-year-old boy stabbed to death.
Another teenager has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Parents are asking this morning, are our schools still safe?
A community in mourning. Floral tributes and balloons have been laid here at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield as police continue their murder investigation.
Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner approves eye-watering council tax rises that could see millions of you paying more.
Well, so she also draws up plans for a new advice panel to tackle Islamophobia.
Yes, the government looking at a panel to tackle Islamophobia, potentially adopting a formal definition as well. Meanwhile, Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, warns of a Trojan horse for a blasphemy law. I'll bring you more shortly.
Labour Party is forced to deny Keir Starmer broke lockdown rules during COVID after he hired a voice coach.
This is all hypothetical and speculation. It's the same MP that started that last investigation that is starting this one. We want to get on with changing the country.
And in the sport this morning, well, the January transfer window finally shut, even though it's February, at 11 p.m. last night, with Manchester City spending the most. Chelsea beat West Ham last night to go fourth in the Premier League, and former Liverpool captain, now of Ajax, Jordan Henderson, gets very annoyed at Dutch journalists.
Big changes are on the way for the UK's weather later this week, but for the rest of today, well, it's more wet and breezy weather coming from the west. I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
It's just gone 8 o'clock.
It has indeed. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
To talk about today. Today is World Cancer Day, and to mark it, the Princess of Wales has released this picture. When you look at it, I'll tell you that it was taken by her youngest child, who was just 6 years of age. And it's a very noble day, a great day to mark, but an absolutely awful picture.
Oh!
What's that mean? Don't forget to mature all.
She put the quote next to the photo.
I don't want to see the quote, I want to see the picture. So the picture, that is really spooky. I look at that and I think that is like some sort of...
No.
Would you hang that on your wall?
Well, no, but I think it's symbolic. It's the joy of being in remission and the relief of being in remission.
Well, it looks...
She's enjoying life. She's in the woods with her children.
Well, there doesn't look much life about those woods, does there?
Well, it's winter. But she looks full of life and she looks happy.
She's too small to see what she is. I think it's quite a depressing picture.
Well, I think it's very artsy.
Just my view, just my view. And, Paul, there we're reading today the actor Brian Murphy, who reached the incredible age of 92.
Yeah.
He's passed away.
Brian Murphy, you remember Brian Murphy, and I don't know whether Ellie will remember Brian Murphy, but Brian Murphy made his name in Man About the House.
Yeah, let's see a picture,
Man About the House, Richard O'Sullivan. So the story was Richard O'Sullivan.
George and Mildred.
And there were George and Mildred. See, the thing is, there were two spin-offs from the show, from Man About the House, because he played George Roper.
Yeah.
Although he was one of these people that was like ageless, always stays.
Eutha Joyce.
Yeah, and there's Eutha Joyce as well. Eutha, who passed away back in 1980, it was. So that was when they were still doing George and Mildred. But when you look at him, it's one of those people, especially from those days, and you could never tell how old they are. They're always like around 55, 60 odd, you know?
Yeah, but he would only have been 30 or so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he probably would have been early 40s. So then there was the spin-off from that, then became George and Mildred when they moved out of London. And the other spin-off from the show was Richard O'Sullivan in Robin's Nest. But it was hugely successful. And then he did Last of the Summer Wine after that.
It's still repeated on Gold.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And it was still on TV recently. recently, I mean, with Holby City, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Benidorm. I recognise him from Benidorm.
Yeah, yes, of course he did that as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with Man About the House, the whole thing, the premise was like, how can it be that there's a man that goes in and shares a flat with two girls? Can you imagine? And not only that, he's a chef as well, and they were the neighbours that lived upstairs.
Very good.
Love that show.
OK,
Great
thank you.
show. Sad news, Brian Murphy has passed away at the age of 92. His agent has described him as a joyful and profoundly good-hearted man.
Nice.
8:05 is the time. Hello, a very good morning to you. Leading the news today, a 15-year-old boy died yesterday after being stabbed to death at a school in Sheffield. The young man has been named as Harvey Wilgoose. He was a student at All Saints Catholic School.
Well, a teenager has since been arrested on suspicion of murder. Well, we're joined now by GB News Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley. And Anna, we can't even imagine the shock of the community there this morning.
Yes, Ellie, the community here in Sheffield is truly in mourning. Parents and students here shocked by the events of yesterday, as well as the wider community. And as you'll be able to see behind me, tributes have been laid, both floral tributes and balloons on the railings here at All Saints Catholic High School in tribute to 15-year-old Harvey Wilgoose, who died following a stabbing at the school yesterday, with a 15-year-old boy arrested on suspicion of murder who remains in police custody. Now, police were called here yesterday afternoon at 12:17 after reports of a stabbing, and South Yorkshire police say that Harvey suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. Now, Assistant Chief Constable Lindsay Butterfield gave a statement to the press yesterday. She's from South Yorkshire Police, and this is what she said in the press conference.
It is with great sadness that I share with you today a teenager has died following a stabbing at a Sheffield school earlier today. Our thoughts are with the family of the boy, his friends, and the whole school community. At 12:17 p.m, emergency services were called to All Saints Catholic High School on Granville Road. The victim, a 15-year-old boy, suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. The 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in our custody at this time.
Police are appealing for anyone with any information to come forward. They remain on site, continuing their investigations at the school today, and the school remains closed. It's sadly not the first time in this week that the school has been involved in an incident. It went into lockdown on the 29th of January. The head teacher sent a message to parents saying the reason for the lockdown was due to threatening behaviour between a small number of students, where threats were made of physical violence. And of course, what's happened yesterday will raise wider concerns in society about knife crime, particularly pertaining to young people.
Yes, it will. Anna Riley, thank you very much for that.
Angela Rayner looks set to team up with Conservative heavyweight Dominic Grieve to form a new council on Islam and free speech.
Well, it's expected to have 16 members who will focus on what they say is a rise in Islamophobia. We're joined now by GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. And
Catherine, what I don't understand, is this supporting Islam, or is this against things that people in Islamic positions say about other things?
Well, good morning, both. The government say that it's about making sure that Muslims basically are protected from people being vile about them because of their religion. They've said that all forms of religious and racial hatred have absolutely no place in our society. And they've gone on to say that they're exploring an integrated, cohesive approach to tackling racial and religious hatred. Worth saying, they're also proposing a council on anti-Semitism. But this council that Angela Rayner is looking to create, they are approaching, we understand, Dominic Grieve, who was previously a Conservative Attorney General going back many moons before he was booted out of the party by Boris Johnson over Brexit. So they're looking at how to tackle Islamophobia, and they're looking at a definition of what that is. Now, the Labour Party back in 2018 adopted a definition that many people worried would have a very chilling effect on free speech. Now, we don't know if the government are going to take that definition or something rather different, but already quite a number of alarm bells are ringing. Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, has said, of course, we should tackle anti-Muslim hate wherever it occurs, but this definition is a Trojan horse for a blasphemy law protecting Islam, and goes on to say, you know, why is it acceptable to mock Christianity but not Islam? Also says that the government has an Orwellian disregard for free speech. And I think it's a very difficult balancing act, isn't it? Because on the one hand, of course, you want to protect people from, anti-Muslim or anti-Jewish crime, hate crime. But on the other hand, this is a country which supposedly upholds and protects free speech. And we've seen, just with the grooming gang scandal that came up again recently, how if people are worried to come forward about something because they're concerned about being labelled as racist, what terrible, terrible effects that can have.
It's just fascinating, Catherine, because there you are. It's like there's a challenge to Christianity. Oh, why does Christianity get this treatment and we don't get this treatment? It's simple. Christianity is the main religion of the country, of the whole country. This is a Christian country, and therefore, and I quoted this earlier, Poland, for instance, people have marched in the streets there to say that Poland is a Catholic country, and that is the dominant religion there. Nothing else is going to come in to force or count at the same level. And people here are asking, well, why are we upgrading Islam, Muslim faith, over Christianity?
Well, I think that's an entirely valid question. I think the government would say that, since the war in Gaza, there was a huge rise in Islamophobic and anti-Semitism attacks. But of course, when you look back to that terrorist atrocity back in Paris a few years ago at Charlie Hebdo, the murder of those journalists because of that cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, at that time, European leaders came forward and said, we will defend free speech. Je suis Charlie. I think to many people, that feels like rather a long time ago now.
Catherine, appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Lots of you getting in touch this morning of that really sad news. A 15-year-old boy who was stabbed at school yesterday, very sadly died. Joe says, whatever is this country coming to, with talk of schools having metal detectors, stop and search, and even police officers at the gates. It's all very sad and seems like it's only getting worse. Surely tougher sentences, possession is the obvious answer.
We were talking about self-service tills as well at supermarkets and the increase in theft from those. But Carol says, I refuse to use the self-service because it takes people's jobs, which it does.
And there's lots of people who feel that way, don't they?
Yeah. Here's your weather update. We say hello, good morning and welcome to Aidan McGivern.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds and blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year. And in fact, it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best of the sunshine across England and Wales. 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south. That's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
So this story caught my eye in the papers today. This is in the Times today. Apparently, the return of Bridget Jones to the cinema has made people absolutely fascinated by 90s food. Apparently, there's a demand for it in the supermarkets.
What was 90s food?
Well, Waitrose.com, this is from, are saying that Black Forest Gatto, sales of that has jumped up.
Black Forest Gatto is from the 70s.
70s, you'd say. See, I think there's a big crossover between the 70s and the 90s. Also demand for Arctic roll, pineapple
70s.
upside down cake.
Isn't that you're
chocolate,
right?
I'm just
There must be a
Waitrose.com. Chocolate fondant, Capri Sun. Capri Sun is 90s for sure.
Yeah, the
We
juice.
have that in our lunchboxes, yeah. Ambrosia custard and pot noodles. Oh, and your favourite, the chocolate club biscuits. Apparently, sales are up 26%.
Club Mint is very nice as well.
Now, Club Mint is up 23%.
Is it?
Yeah.
Very
Smith's
nice it is
crispy
too.
bacon frazzles. You probably like those, would you?
Yeah.
You'd like a bacon frazzle. And salt and vinegar chipsticks, I remember those, jumped up nearly 50%. And they are putting it down to, this is Waitrose, putting it down to Bridget Jones. She likes Chardonnay. Sales of Chardonnay are also up.
I don't like salt and vinegar anything.
Oh, I do. That's the best
Too
flavour
smelly,
crisp.
too strong.
No, best flavour crisp.
Always
there
feel
is.
I want to wash after eating anything salt and vinegar.
No, and apparently it doesn't even stop there. So we're buying 90s food or 70s food in the shops, but apparently we're also Googling recipes, like French onion soup and sticky toffee pudding and trifle.
French onion soup is very filling.
So yummy. And guess what I Googled on the way into work this morning? A recipe for French onion soup.
Will you make it?
I hope so. It sounds quite easy. It's caramelised onion and bread and lots of cheese.
Lots of cheese. Lots of
I'll make some. I'll bring some in for you. There you are. That's a promise. Anyway, let us know. Are you into your 90s food or 70s food, it would seem?
I do like cheese.
So do I.
Cheese is nice. I like cheese on toast.
Me too.
Particularly nice.
Very comforting.
Cheese and onion soup, very nice as well.
Yeah.
And the Great British Giveaway, 2 chances to win this time round.
You like that as well, don't you?
I like that as well. So what's in each bundle that we've got?
Well, it contains a brand new iPhone, £500 to spend in your favourite store, and £10,000 in tax-free cash. So if you fancy being not one but 2 winners, here are all of the details that you need. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, is it time...
Gosh, hold on. I'm reading here that the King has stripped Cadbury's of its royal warrant.
Really?
So they're no longer by royal appointment. Now, I was reading recently they don't even use milk in their chocolate anymore. They use palm oil or something.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So after 170 years, the royal warrant has been taken away from Cadbury's chocolate. Goodness me, that is warrants investigation.
It does warrant investigation. I think we should talk about that.
No, we should go there and...
Even better, let's
sample
go
it and
and
taste
sample it and
whatever.
we'll find out for ourselves. Because that is a British institution. Cadbury's been there for, like, the best part of 200 years, hasn't
But they're American now.
They are, Americanised.
That's the difference.
And that's what it will be, won't it?
That's definitely what it'll be. Trump will have something to say about that. He'll slap a tariff on us after that. We're back right after this.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel. A woman of 53 has believed for 18 months she was in an online relationship with Brad Pitt.
I think we're seeing pictures. So these are the pictures that she received that made her believe that she was in this relationship with Brad Pitt.
And you'll see that some of it is in hospital because the scammer was claiming that he was suffering from cancer. This was playing very much on her emotion. So this is a divorcee who lived in Mauritius. She'd received a £700,000 divorce settlement, or £650,000 divorce settlement, I should say, and £700,000 has been taken from her through this scam.
Yeah.
As she was becoming, every time she became suspicious, the money was taken for payment of charges on gifts that she never received, and then hospital fees. There was lots of emotions being played into there. Now, as somebody, I'm a rom-com writer by trade, so I write romantic fiction. And one of the books I've written has actually been about somebody who did online dating, got herself into a whole heap of trouble. Not quite, she wasn't in a relationship with Brad Pitt, but she met somebody dodgy. So because I've written that book, I've met a lot of people who've come up to me and said, oh, it's happened to me.
It's scary in this digital age, isn't it?
They've lost 700,000, but somebody has tried it on. Somebody my question is, would a man go 18 months in a relationship online without seeing somebody and keep it going? Or is this feeding into this neediness of a particular demographic of a woman who that's better than anything else she'd got going on in her life, was what was being fed to her over the internet?
And then maybe a little bit of her knew, but she kind of just suppressed it because she
was hoping it was Brad Pitt.
Her daughter apparently for a year was saying, this can't be true, come on, think about it. But she just fell for it. But I just wonder, it's a very sad story. She's obviously now getting a lot of hate and ridicule as well.
Because she's been on French TV and she's had a huge amount of pushback from it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got somebody in the studio who is just so cute, says Ellie.
So
Was that
cute.
me you were talking about?
You and our little guest, Teddy.
Teddy.
Is with us this morning.
And his mum, Sarah, here. And the thing about... This is World Cancer Day, right? And the reason we're talking to Sarah and Teddy is little Teddy had leukemia, Sarah. He's fully recovered, everything's grand and good and whatever. But what a battle for you as his mummy. And when he was in hospital, having all his treatment, you were very concerned. What were you concerned? You were concerned about him, obviously, concerned about the leukemia. Outside that, you had another concern. What was that?
Well, the quality of the food just wasn't acceptable for someone going through an oncology journey. It's proven in science that when you're taking chemotherapies and all these really powerful drugs that are going to save your life, it depletes the body of all of its vital nutrients. And what they were serving was substandard and completely hypocritical to their own policies.
So what were they offering Teddy?
So it was like jacket potato, ultra-processed cereals for breakfast, pizza, garlic bread.
Sugar content.
Yeah, it's complete junk food. And I find it quite hypocritical that in one hand they want to tell us as parents, feed your child 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, but yet when you're an inpatient in hospital and they've got a duty of care to look after you because you cannot look after yourself, they won't provide you with that or do anything to try and support you to make sure that you create good habits in hospital.
So what would his good habits be when he's at home, or what would he be used to eat? eating?
So Teddy and his twin George, we focus on 35 to 50 plant materials a week, so beans, nuts, legumes and seeds. That's from a global study called the American Gut Project that says if you have 35 to 50 different plant materials a week, your risk of chronic diseases, including the cancers, is significantly reduced. So he will have at home, for example, I do clever things to hide food, like in shepherd's pie, I substitute onions for leeks. I'll put butternut squash instead of the carrots, make sure I hide beans in and mash them up with the mince, because they're children. I understand that lots of people are picky eaters, but you can be a little bit creative still to get the good stuff in. But at the end of the day, I do think there is a duty of care on the NHS, which is why we've set up the campaign Fuel the Fight, because they need support. 600 million is being spent in hospitals every year on inpatient food. The catering companies' own PDFs talk about how important food is to recovery and how to get out of hospital quickly.
But it's as if one department within the NHS doesn't talk to the other department. I can understand there's pressure on providing food and there's pressure on meeting budgets and things, but it's just as if the medical people do what they do and then someone else brings the food in and they don't sort of talk to them, obviously.
No. So I've actually had a book launch today that's already gone as Amazon bestseller called Cancer Isn't All About Chemo, because I also want to educate people at the same time as the campaign, so hitting it from all angles. Most people don't realise that doctors only get 20 to 30 hours nutritional training in their whole undergraduate degree. So I think we should be fair to say if it's an oncologist, we want them to do the role of an oncologist. An oncologist saved my son's life, but I don't agree with budget holders in administrative functions making decisions on food when they don't understand.
Especially when nutrition is such a vital part of recovery, especially when it comes to cancer, as you say, which depletes you of all your nutrients and everything good in your body.
He had a prognosis of 13%, which was absolutely awful. And it has been said to us off the record, they know exactly what nutrition did for him during that process. But that's where it kind of starts and ends. And I think that's why, as a campaign, I think we can all relate to the fact that when you eat well, you are well and you feel well.
You did... I'm laughing here, but you would turn up at his meal times with your own food, which you would have made at home.
Yeah, I was literally charging down, literally.
What was the reaction to that?
They were running behind me, to just tell me that I couldn't feed it to my son.
Really?
Yeah, they did. They said that I couldn't because of infection control. And that's another thing that I cover with the campaign and with the books, is about empowering people to know what their options are to take control. When I was challenged several times before I made them cook to my recipes, he's getting a bit excited with his colouring in. You want to be part of the conversation, don't you? They'll say that you're not allowed to bring food into hospitals, but when you challenge and ask for the written policies, you'll see that actually they don't want you to have reheated food and they want it as of a certain temperatures. So it's about also empowering people to feel comfortable to say, hold on, can we just have a conversation about this? This doesn't fit right. How can we come to a sense of compromise?
What would you like to see happen next, Sarah? Would you like to see hospital food reformed across the country? Or would you like it to be open, where parents can make the changes where they see fit?
I think it should be a collaboration. There are many children with many allergies and children with picky eating. But at the end of the day, for example, with picky eater, it's not that difficult to do a tomato sauce with hidden vegetables in there. It does require reform. If you're spending 600 million a year on food, I can tell you, I think both of you will agree, 70% of the food in hospital isn't being eaten, so it's being wasted and thrown away. So why don't we actually, in any other organisation, you would look at it and say, the produce isn't being used, let's have some focus groups with the patients and ask them why they're not eating it, and let's actually try and make changes.
Well, look, you've got a book which documents Teddy's journey and everything associated with all of this. Good luck to you with what you are trying to do. Where will you stop with this, or how far will you bring this?
I genuinely, and I'm going to really try not to get upset, but I do every time. I am so lucky to have my child, and I'm so lucky that he had the experience he did because we advocated. We should not have had to work as hard as we did. My son's okay now, so I have got a little bit of breathing room. I'm not willing to give up on this one. It's not. The oncology team do their absolute best, but with 1 in 2 people getting cancer and spending long periods of time in hospital, we owe it to people to do better with food. So I'm not.
Thank you to you, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much for having us on.
We wish you the very best of luck. And Teddy, you are so cute. You can come back any time. do your colouring in. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Lovely to meet you as well. Lovely to meet you, Teddy.
So thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye.
Oh, right.
Right. Angela Rayner has given the green light for 6 cash-strapped councils to increase taxes. Roughly 3 million people could see up to 10% increase on their bills from April.
Well, GB News West Midlands reporter Jack Carson joins us now. And Jack, I believe that you're in one of the 6 councils that has got the green light to raise their council tax. What are people there telling you?
Well, it is a real struggle to ask residents here in Birmingham to pay more on their council tax. It was a struggle last year when Birmingham, of course, declared bankruptcy and had to increase council tax by almost 10%. They'd asked for permission from the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, to raise it another 9.99% this year, but that was rejected. They're being given permission to raise it by 7.5%, but councils across the country have had permission to raise it above the 4.99% threshold. That is usually the maximum amount of council with social care duties can increase their council tax without having to hold a referendum. Those councils, Bradford Council being given permission to raise it by 10%, Newham and Windsor and Maidenhead allowed a 9% rise. Birmingham, where we are, Somerset and Trafford, as I was saying, can increase their bills by 7.5%. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner saying this is in order to make sure that these councils don't fall into further distress. But here, there is a lot of upset. The local Conservative Party here in Birmingham saying that this is going to impact residents, saying that residents should be the ones to foot the bill for the council's poor mismanagement of their finances. You'll remember we've covered it a lot, the situation here in Birmingham with hundreds of millions of pounds worth of cuts having to be made over the following couple of years. We've seen the impact it's had on services, including the council trying to remove certain roles within the council, one of those being within waste collection. We were on the picket line for some of the bin strikes that Unite are hosting in protest of that position being removed. Those protests are only going to get increased over the next few months. So that is, already the impact that people not only have to pay more council tax, but they also have to then cope with the impact that it's having on services. Now, central government is also providing billions of pounds in total across for councils across the country to ensure that their core spending, they say, is not reduced from the last few years. But that is coming on top of any kind of revenue that councils get from these increases in council tax. Now, here in Birmingham, John Cotton had asked for that 10%. He says negotiations are still very much going on within the council, within the government. They say they're engaging constructively, but the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, saying that there was no magic wand to try and solve this local authority's financial problem, and the commissioners here saying that the council was letting down residents. It's a similar situation across the country.
OK, Jack. Thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there and we'll go to the break. When we come back, we've got Paul Coyte with the sports news, so we'll be kicking ball with him after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Perth and Kinross, the A989 remains closed along Tay Street in Perth because of flooding. In Glasgow, the A77 is closed again today at Pollokshields because of a burst water main. In West Yorkshire, the A672 is closed off junction 22 of the M62 at Rishworth Moor after an accident causing delays. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed clockwise. Just after junction 24 at Denton Island after an accident, there are long delays towards there with queues from junction 22 and also on the M67 and M62. In Cheshire, the A49 is closed at Weaverham because of a fallen tree. In Nottinghamshire, the A608 is blocked along Mansfield Road at Underwood. And the M4 in Berkshire, 2 lanes are closed eastbound just after junction 10 at Wokingham after an accident causing delays, and there are 2 lanes closed eastbound where a car caught fire just before junction 7 west of Slough causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've got Paul, he's got the sports news, and yesterday, big news day because of the football transfer deadline day, which has been and gone.
Well, people, they try and make a big deal about it, don't they? The transfer window is shut and who's going to sign for who. And it's always, I'll be honest with you, Eamonn, it's always a bit of a damp squib. It's a bit of a I can see by the look on your face there it is.
No, I think it's definitely, there's something wrong with the system that didn't used to be wrong with the system. It used to be a very exciting day.
Yeah.
Harry Redknapp in his car rolling down the window, talking to people at the training ground.
But now, loans, people wanted to loan, and it's nobody wants to spend too much money. But you know what I do like is the fact that the way clubs are announcing new signings, which keeps it kind of interesting for all of us. Now, Spurs have signed a player called Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich. He's 19 years old, and he's a striker, and he was going to go elsewhere. He turned down Spurs. He was going to go, then Arsenal were interested, and everybody was interested, and ended up then he signs for Spurs on loan. So apparently it was Ange Postecoglou on Zoom. I don't know whether he actually looked at him or he was going, mate, we really want you to come here. But he agreed, and they released the video. So let's have a look at Matthias Tell's release video.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. All right. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Wait. Hold on. Sorry, Wait. No. Wait. What did you want to tell me? I'll tell you something. I'm here.
You know,
that's very good.
Well, this is what I love, is footballers who are acting, and they're all being asked to go, listen, we need you to act in this.
That's very creative. I like that.
Well, how about, Ben Chilwell has moved from Chelsea to Crystal Palace. Let's have a look at Ben's. Here it comes.
Hi, guys. Chilly here. Absolutely delighted to get the deal over the line. So, yeah, can't wait to see you all at Selhurst Park, and, looking forward to meeting everyone.
Boring.
I don't like that, sorry.
Boring. Hi, Chilly here. Really looking forward to it. Come on, more creation, please, from Crystal Palace.
Do you remember the days where there wasn't transfer windows?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible that you would get players just moving mid-season.
Yeah, just go whenever.
Yeah, and there was something quite exciting about that, I suppose. It was a big thing. But no more.
Just go whenever. Well, look, next one. Marcus Edwards.
Yes.
Fine English talent, playing over in Portugal, has signed for Burnley. So Burnley have put something together. It could involve acting. Let's have a look at this one.
Its window shuts in less than 12 hours. You don't understand.
Try to understand!
Is there any way that we can please get off this...
No! Oh, my God. Did you get off the plane?
I'll go off the plane.
You got off the plane.
Up the ferret.
I love the way it's like, look away. I got off the plane.
Yeah.
So there was some fine acting there from Marcus Edwards.
These social media managers have been very busy.
They really have.
Last 24 hours.
Should we have one more? We've got one more.
One more.
See, this is one that you probably wouldn't see. Charlton Athletic. So Charlton Athletic have got any on the act as well. They signed a defender called Tom McIntyre, and Tom will be asked to act in this one. So this is our final one now.
Cooper, Sutherland, Cartwright, and who have we under here?
McIntyre, sir.
Oh, let me guess. No one saw how this happened. I suppose you tripped.
No, sir. What happened is...
You're about to grass, are you? So I will ask you how this happened, and you will reply, I tripped.
I signed for Charlton. Up the addicts.
Nice. Love that one. Love that one. Yeah.
Now, Jordan Henderson, there was a lot of talk he was going to Monaco, that he was forcing a move out of... Who's he playing for, Ajax?
Well, he's playing for Ajax at the moment, and over in... so he Liverpool, and then he went to Saudi Arabia, didn't work out, and everybody was up in arms. He was over there for the money and human rights. Everybody's forgotten that now. Then back then to Ajax, and now there was talk about Monaco. Now, how true this is, that the Dutch press got hold of it, and so they questioned him after the game on Saturday. And he didn't react well to it because he's thinking, I'm not having any of your nonsense. So this is what happened with Jordan Henderson speaking to the Dutch press.
I wasn't myself Thursday because there was a lot of emotions going on. I think 99% of people, if they knew the inside information, wouldn't have played the game. Yeah. Really. But yet people in this room will question my professionalism and me as a person. I think it's bang out of order. I've got a family. I can deal with it. I've had a lot worse than this in my career. But I've got a family, a wife, kids, mum, dad, who read nonsense in the media from you guys. I think it's bang out of order.
What?
Wow, and that wasn't made up, that's real.
Oh, but, that was... You're thinking, God, he's a really good actor. Is he moving to Monaco? Is this the Monaco video? So, no, he's staying where he is. And there were stories about the fact that he was handing over the captain's armband, that he didn't do this and he didn't celebrate a goal. And so the Dutch press were hitting him with it, and he was saying, listen, it's all nonsense. Who told you this? Where did you get this from? I'm not signing for them, and I'm not having any of your business.
Well, we've had enough of your business.
I'm not surprised. I've had enough of my business.
Very good, Paul. Thank you very much indeed, my friend. OK, good morning today. Jonathan Ashworth, Anna Firth, they are making the headlines, and they're going to be doing that after this short break, because included in this break, what have we got?
We'll be giving you the weather forecast in European hotspots. Here they are.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi there. If you're looking for some winter sun, actually the Mediterranean's the place to find it. Plenty of sunny skies during the next few days, although Greece has seen some heavy rain, and that's clearing on Wednesday, followed by windy conditions through Wednesday, Thursday into Friday. Italy through the Balearics into Spain, Portugal and the Canaries, indeed plenty of sunny skies, and it remains that way until the end of the week, when it does turn increasingly unsettled.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, you know, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, I mean, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimising being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, you're 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got Jonathan Ashworth and Anna Firth. They're going through the newspapers for us today and stories making the news. Jonathan, first of all, let's start with the earthquake. Ellie, this grabbed your attention in Santorini, the Greek island.
Fears of an earthquake in Santorini.
Well, as a matter of fact, it's Greece's most popular holiday island. Let's see the pictures of what's been going on there, and tell us about this story, Jonathan.
Well, I mean, Santorini, as your viewers will know, is a gorgeous Greek island, and many people, I think, will be familiar with the iconic picture of the sort of the white church with the beautiful sea blue domes. Yeah. You know, it's a beautiful island, very popular holiday destination, but there's worries about an earthquake. They've detected seismic, activity, and there's been an exodus. People are trying to get out. The emergency services are getting involved. Look, there's the famous churches with their blue domes. So, look, this is quite worrying, because a lot of British holidaymakers will be booking holidays to Santorini as we speak, or will have been booking holidays, and will be very worried. And you'll remember a few years ago, it was other Greek islands. They didn't have earthquakes, but they had those awful, awful fires. Yeah. Do you remember? I think it was Rhodes, and holidaymakers had to escape Rhodes because of these awful fires. So, you know, what does this mean for our summer holidays?
Well, apparently there was a tremor of a magnitude of 4.7. This is on Reuters this morning. Recorded at 6:53 this morning on the island. So hundreds of people packing onto ferries, as you can imagine, trying to leave Santorini this morning, just concerns that obviously seismic activity is going to ramp up.
And it's been happening every few minutes, so it's not just like a one-off. But the Santorini Philharmonic Orchestra is playing on.
Really? Really?
Yes. So what about that then?
The band plays on.
The band plays on.
Like the band on the deck of the Titanic. Yeah. Anna, the Mail are reporting on a dementia fear caused by plastic. Tell us more.
Yeah, no, I always zone in on these stories, because there's always a story, isn't there? And I prefer the stories about the different things that we should be eating or drinking. Do you remember the one about orange juice? I decided to order it by the truckload when I read that orange juice is good for you. That wards off dementia. But this is about plastic pollutants potentially in our brains. But it's a very small study that they've done, and they've found that there's that there's a greater than normal concentration of microplastics. These are the little plastics that can leach from bottles or bags or food containers. It's always actually something which I've thought is an obvious, a way in which plastic might get into our
this
bodies.
What gets me, when you get the nanny state interfering, why isn't someone interfering about this where it's obvious what's happening here?
But I think the thing to say about this little report is that it's a very small study and they don't think this is conclusive at this stage. So I don't think we should worry too much.
I think we should worry about it. I think we're poisoning ourselves totally with that. All these things come out when it's too late. Now, there's a photograph, World Cancer Day, Jonathan, and it's very hard. The Princess of Wales has released this new portrait. Ellie will be very, like most people, be very supportive of it and say it's lovely and everything else. But I think that's hideous. I think it's absolutely hideous.
What?
I think
So
it's
you don't
scary.
like the photo, do you? What?
It's like from a ghost film. So it is. What are you talking about? What's inspirational about that?
No.
She looks like she's celebrating
She looks as if she's nailed to a cross, so she does.
No. She's standing on a tree that's fallen down, and
Dead
she's on
tree.
top of it. Yeah, and she's standing there. She's stoic. She's still going.
What is inspirational
she's
about that?
joyful in her recovery.
Well, I'm just saying, because I know no one else will say it, I think it's a hideous-looking picture.
That may not be the best view of it, because when you actually see it online, it's a beautiful wintry morning, and we've all gone out with our kids and gone, and walked along logs. She's holding out her arms to sort of embrace everybody who's had cancer. I think it's a lovely image.
I agree. I think it's a fabulous image, and of course it's taken by Prince Louis, who's 6.
Yes.
His 6-year-old has taken it.
He's mad.
Eamonn, being mean.
He is. He's always jumping off balconies and all sorts of things.
Spirited.
He's fun. He's got personality.
We want kids to be jumping around and all that.
And he's clearly got an eye for photography.
You're being Mr.
I don't think he's got an eye for photography.
You're being Mr. Grumpy this morning.
No, you're all just typical because it's a royal picture and it's taken by one of her little babies and must be lovely. And I mean, it's not. It's horrible.
No. I'm going to have to defend her on this, because I think she's quite inspirational. Did you see the report earlier this week where she went on a visit? She heard someone in the crowd wanting to say hello.
Well, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Doubt about her. She's amazing.
And this is World Cancer Day, and she has been really through the mill, and I think she's an inspiration to us all.
Well, and as an MP, she came to Leicester, to De Montfort University, to see the fashion students.
Yeah.
And I got to have lunch with her. That was very exciting.
What was she like?
Oh, charming, lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah, and she was really interested, because De Montfort in Leicester is like, they do a lot in fashion and British design and so on. So she wanted to come and look at the students, and the students made for her a pair of shoes.
But this is another thing, Anna. We're talking about fashion at De Montfort. She's got an issue with fashion now, hasn't she? And her being reported what she's wearing.
She's not going to make a big issue in the reports of what she's wearing, but there's a lovely feature on her in the Daily Telegraph today with some of her, beautiful outfits, and she promotes British brands. And what's wrong with us actually promoting things that we are known for and do really well?
But she has a feeling that maybe talking about what she's wearing takes away from what she's doing while she's there.
But I think she can do both.
Yeah. I think at the moment, bearing in mind that she's just obviously recovered from cancer, she will have a new perspective on things, won't she? She will want the focus and the emphasis to be on the work that she does and not on her clothes. But I do, and I understand that, I do completely, but I do think for British brands, it is a shame. And for British designers who were on the world stage and promoted that.
Yeah,
Princess Wales.
and British fashion, British design, it's some of the very best in the world.
And always has been.
We should be really proud. Much better than Paris and Milan, in my view.
Much
better.
If you go to one of their airports, they have it all on display. And if I was running our airports, I would change the walkway so that all our brilliant brands were there.
That's such a good idea.
For people to see.
Victoria Beckham and Burberry and Stella McCartney. And it's a good idea. Yeah, well, maybe she'll come back to share more of her fashion. I hope so. Do we have time to talk? No, we don't, really. 30 seconds. Our favourite 90s food, people. Anna?
90s food? Golly, it's probably going to be something dreadful, like a burger, a really delicious burger and fries.
OK, yeah. Jonathan, favourite 90s food? Apparently it's making a comeback thanks to Bridget Jones.
Pickled onion monster munch.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Oh, no, that's the worst.
Not disagree.
Eamonn?
Yeah, I'm with Jonathan.
And you like club?
If you like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join the club. Thanks to the guys, here's the weather.
Here's the weather, thank you.
Didn't know.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds and blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year. And in fact, it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with the frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best of the sunshine across England and Wales, 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south, and that's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Perth and Kinross, the A989 remains closed each way along Tay Street in Perth because of flooding. In Glasgow, the A77 remains closed at Pollock Shields because of a burst water main. In West Yorkshire, the A672 is closed off junction 22 of the M62 at Rishworth Moor after an accident. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, 2 lanes are closed clockwise just after junction 24 at Denton Island after an accident. There are queues from junction 22 at Hollingwood and delays too on the M67. In Cheshire, the A49 is closed along Warrington Road at Weaverham because of a fallen tree. In Staffordshire, the A50 is partly blocked westbound by an accident at the Mere Tunnel interchange at Stoke-on-Trent, causing delays. A couple of accidents on the M4 in Berkshire, with 2 out of 4 lanes closed eastbound just after junction 10 at Wokingham, and 2 lanes closed eastbound just before junction 7 west of Slough, where a car caught fire causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Knife crime at school horror. A 15-year-old boy is stabbed to death at school.
and another teenager arrested on suspicion of his murder as parents ask, are our schools safe?
The community is mourning here in Sheffield as floral tributes are laid out outside All Saints Catholic High School, paying tribute to 15-year-old Harvey Wilgoose as the police investigations continue into his murder.
Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner approves eye-watering council tax rises that could see millions of people paying more.
Well, Bradford Council have been given permission from the Deputy Prime Minister to raise their council tax by 10%. Here in Birmingham, it's given permission for 7.5%. I'll have all the details.
The Labour Party is forced to deny Keir Starmer broke lockdown rules during COVID after hiring a voice coach.
This is all hypothetical and speculation. It's the same MP that started that last investigation that is starting this one. We want to get on with changing the country.
Princess Catherine releases a new photo for World Cancer Day taken by one of her children. Can you guess which one?
Well, I won't spoil the surprise just yet, but does this mean that either Prince George, Princess Charlotte or Prince Louis are taking after their mother? Find out shortly.
Big changes are on the way for the UK's weather later this week, but for the rest of today, well, it's more wet and breezy weather coming from the west. I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. We're talking about 90s food this morning. It's because Waitrose is saying the release of the new Bridget Jones film has caused loads of people to not only buy 90s food, but also look up recipes.
I just can't think of what 90s food is. And you mentioned 90s food, and I'm saying, that's 70s.
I know.
Black
I
Forest
feel like-
Gâteau was 70s.
I feel like there's definitely an overlap. You're not wrong. Black Forest Gâteau, Arctic Roll, Pineapple Upside Down Cake, Chocolate Fondant.
Arctic Roll is my all-time favourite. I
Is
could
it?
happily have that as my last prison meal.
Really?
Yeah, Arctic Roll, yeah.
It is very, very good. You don't see a lot of it now anymore, do you? Capri Sun is definitely 90s. Ambrosia custard and pot noodles. Michaela says Club biscuits used to have a slogan: if you like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join our club.
No. If you like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join the club.
Exactly like that, yeah.
That's it.
She said they did used to have thick chocolate, but now it's thin as paper and nothing special.
Well, isn't everything shrinkflation?
Shrinkflation,
Yeah.
Michaela.
The Easter eggs this year. Oh,
Don't
my
get me
goodness.
started on the Easter eggs.
Not worth
£15
bothering about.
for some of the larger ones. Joan says, I make a soup in my slow cooker called the cheeseburger soup. Remember Anna Firth was saying it's her favourite 90s food? Was
A cheeseburger soup.
Cheeseburger soup.
Ugh.
It's delicious. Apparently everyone wants the recipe.
Take your word for it.
That'd be
Oh,
nice. It'd be cheesy, beef.
Whatever.
That's probably about it. And Keith says, I love a Black Forest Gâteau. So tasty, I could eat a whole cake right now. I wish they still had it on restaurant menus.
You see, when I was growing up, things like Dairy Box. Do you still make Dairy Box chocolates? Hope they do. Can you still buy Dairy Box
What, like a
chocolates?
milk tray? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean Dairy Box. I didn't say
I don't know
milk
what
tray. I
Dairy Box
said
is.
milk tray. Dairy Box.
I don't know
shout
what
in my
Dairy
ear.
Box is.
Milk tray. No, Dairy Box,
All right,
right?
hang on.
So Dairy Box, they had an egg.
Oh, yeah, I know Dairy Box, yeah.
Surprise. They had an egg and the chocolate was literally so thick. I mean, try biting into that if it was that thick. You couldn't
Yeah, it'd
even
be
get
hard,
your
yeah.
teeth around that. And it would almost break your teeth. And that's the way a lot of eggs were. But now, no, just not the same.
They do still sell Dairy Box, you'll be glad to know. Very expensive, though. A box of Dairy Box is £7 in the supermarkets.
Is it still today?
Yeah, £7.
It's quite nice.
Yeah, but £7
I'll get you one. I'll bring you one in
Thank you.
tomorrow. We'll do that. Right.
Glad we got that. Anyway, keep those views coming in. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Leading the news today, such a sad story. A 15-year-old boy has died after being stabbed to death at a school in Sheffield.
Well, the young man has been named as Harvey Wilgoose, a student at All Saints Catholic School.
A teenager has since been arrested on suspicion of his murder. We now go to our Humber reporter, Anna Riley, who's there at the scene. Anna.
Yes, Eamonn. Well, police investigations continue here at All Saints Catholic Primary School in Sheffield. You'll be able to see behind us the police guard there, multiple police still on site, with the community also in mourning and floral tributes and balloons being laid in respect and honour of 15-year-old Harvey Wilgoose, who died following a stabbing at the school yesterday afternoon. A 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in police custody. Now, police were called here at 12:17 yesterday afternoon, and South Yorkshire Police say Harvey suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. I just want to show you some of the tributes as well, if we can. People have been coming all morning, parents, students, teachers as well. One of the tributes from one of Harvey's teachers reads, "I only taught you a few times in year 7, but I remember you well. Despite being occasionally a little too energetic, you were always polite and friendly. I am so sorry that this has happened." Another tribute from a student says, "Harvey, my pal, gone too soon, but won't be forgotten. Rest in peace." Now, South Yorkshire Police continuing their investigations. They're currently inside the school as well as outside the school here. They've taped off a section inside one of the school buildings as they continue their investigations. Yesterday they held a press conference in which Assistant Chief Constable Lindsay Butterfield said the forces officers are working at pace to build a full picture of how this tragedy has unfolded. Let's just hear what she said in that press conference.
It is with great sadness that I share with you today a teenager has died following a stabbing at a Sheffield school earlier today. Our thoughts are with the family of the boy, his friends and the whole school community. At 12:17 p.m, emergency services were called to Saints Catholic High School on Granville Road. The victim, a 15-year-old boy, suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. The 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in our custody at this time.
The school was also put into lockdown last week on January the 29th. The head teacher said that was due to threatening behaviour between a small number of students where threats were made of physical violence. Of course, as this investigation continues, we'll be bringing more reports throughout the day from the school as the community mourns the loss.
So sad. But that story's not over yet. I mean, you look, if they were in lockdown last week and there are malcontents within the school, there's rival gangs and things. What goes on? Because the school has got to get back to normal ASAP, and for the pupils it won't be normal. How will they feel after that bereavement and after that hugely shocking incident?
For the staff as well, for the teachers.
Yep.
I mean, you can't even imagine that a 15-year-old boy went to school yesterday and didn't come home.
Now, Angela Rayner is the Deputy Prime Minister, and she also has responsibility for housing within the government. And she's basically said, OK, for 6 cash-strapped councils, look at increasing your council tax, and that could be by as much as 10%. So people would have to experience that rise and pass it on. It's we reckon 10% would be
about £200.
200, £300 perhaps as well.
Well, let's speak now to GB News West Midlands reporter Jack Carson, who joins us live now from Birmingham. And people there could be paying more in their council tax.
Well, this city has had to suffer massive increases in council tax over the past 12 months already, after this local authority declared bankruptcy a couple of years ago. Hundreds of millions of pounds worth of savings having to be made, hundreds of millions of pounds worth of assets having to be sold off in order to be able to balance the books over the next few years. Now, Birmingham had put in an application to the government for an increase of 9.99% for council tax. Usually councils with social care duties can only increase their council tax by 4.99% without the need for a referendum or permission. Now, the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, who looks after local housing, communities, authorities as well, has said that they can raise their council tax by 7.5%. But Bradford Council have been given permission for an increase of 10%. They had applied for 15%. Bradford, you will know, is this year's UK City of Culture, so not maybe the best start, but the council there say they've already made more than £40 million worth of cuts, and despite also having loans from the government, they still need to increase council tax in order to be able to provide their services. Now, Newham and Windsor and Maidenhead have also been allowed a 9% rise. Joining Birmingham, Somerset and Trafford councils allowed a rise, an increase in council tax bills of 7.5%. Now, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner saying that this is because they recognise the importance of helping these councils to make sure they don't fall into further financial distress. But they say that this has been clear and balanced with the interests of taxpayers. I wouldn't say from the initial reaction from council tax going up by such huge amounts that maybe taxpayers here on the street feel that is balanced. But of course, the government trying to make sure that local authorities within their core spending, by also providing funding across councils across the country, that core spending doesn't go down, as well as allowing them to increase council tax. That will hope that services can improve in local areas. But here in Birmingham, of course, we've talked over the past couple of years about the impacts that council tax increases have not only on residents, but also that the cuts are having on residents as well. I mean, over the past few years, 73% since 2012 council tax has gone up in Birmingham. That's an increase of £814 for the average household. Many councils across the country having to do something similar, and it's taxpayers that look like they're feeling the pinch.
Jack, appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. The time ticking forward to 12 minutes past 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and that leads us to our poll of the day. Today we are asking, is Angela Rayner fair to let English councils raise tax bills in order to avoid bankruptcy? OK,
here's how it's shaping up so far this morning. Only 3% of you think that is fair. So 97% of you saying that, no, she needs to rethink this whole decision. Martin Dobney with the final result on that, though I can't see that changing too much between now and 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yep, if you want to get involved, just head to gbnews.com/poll.
Fresh doubts have emerged over baby killer Lucy Letby's murder and attempted murder convictions. It's been revealed she was absent for a third of the incidents that happened at the hospital. Well, a panel of experts are due to give evidence later today to a body that deals with miscarriages of justice.
Well, GB News national reporter Charlie Peters is in central London for us now. What are we expecting to hear later on today, Charlie?
Well, good morning. We're expecting to hear, as they say, significant new medical evidence to be presented by Lucy Letby's legal team after they attempt to fight back against those 15 whole-life orders that she is serving after being convicted of murdering 7 babies in August 2023. And then presenting this new evidence via a Professor Emeritus at the University of Toronto called Dr. Shu Lee, whose research on air embolisms was first used by the prosecution to help convict Letby in her first trial from 2022 to 2023. Now, there's already been 2 separate legal challenges, taking this to the Court of Appeal twice. That's been thrown out. But this fresh challenge is an attempt to bring it to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, the independent body that investigates potential miscarriages of justice. Now, Dr. Shu Lee's research examined the effects of pulmonary embolisms, which is when oxygen is pumped into the lungs of babies on ventilation. And they say that it should not be used to support claims that babies had air injected into their veins, which was the prosecution's case. Now, Dr. Shu Lee has also previously told judges that the only sign of air embolism in preterm newborn babies was pink blood vessels superimposed on a pink or blue body, and could only be diagnosed by any other skin discoloration. This was significant evidence used in the original attempt to prosecute successfully Lucy Letby. But today, this fresh new medical evidence that they're using will attempt to overturn that. Earlier today, I spoke with Lucy Letby's barrister, Mark MacDonald, about what we're expecting to hear from this press conference.
I think today is going to be a bit of a game changer. So 14 international expert neonatologists have been looking at all the evidence that was presented to the jury and are about to release, actually in about an hour's time, the result of their findings. And it's going to be interesting because, you see, the thing about these experts is that they were given a brief. The brief was, have a look at this evidence. You're independent, albeit we're instructing you, you're all working independent. And if you find that there's something adverse to Lucy Letby, then we want you to say it. If you find that actually the evidence that went before the jury was wrong and unreliable, then we want you to say it. And that's what we're going to find out this morning.
Are you confident that these findings could reopen that legal challenge in the Court of Appeal after 2 failed attempts?
If they come back and say that the evidence, the medical evidence before the jury was wholly unreliable, then the answer to that question is yes.
Well, in the successful prosecution, they argued that that skin discoloration was vital and proved that Lucy Letby was involved in injecting air into the veins of those babies, and that is what led to their deaths. But Dr. Shu Lee, his evidence today is expected to show in fresh new research that skin discoloration is not always caused by air being injected into the veins of babies. So that is the new research we're expecting to hear later this morning.
OK, Charlie Peters there for us. Thank you very much. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Princess Catherine has released a new photo to commemorate World Cancer Day. We're talking about that next.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as an upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025. What can we expect, fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've got our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Very good to see you, Cameron, in the studio here. And Cameron, you're here to talk about this photograph of Princess Kate. And this has been taken by her youngest child.
Yes, Prince Louis. It's a very unusual photograph of the Princess of Wales. I would suggest that this was taken on a very normal family outing in the woods around Windsor. She's not been glammed up. She's just, I suppose, being perceived as a normal mother, having recovered from cancer. Of course, we know she's in remission. The photograph was released to mark World Cancer Day, which is today. And we know, of course, she's had a pretty terrible time of it in 2024. But I think it's quite poignant that it's Prince Louis who's taken the image. Of course, he's only 6 years old. It shows
got an eye for it.
He does. So is he taking after his mother, who we know is a keen amateur photographer? The photograph was captioned with a small statement from Catherine, which said, "Don't forget to nurture all that which lies beyond the disease." And if you notice, the photograph is taken in nature, and we know that nature was very important with the princess's recovery. She spent a lot of time outdoors. We saw the video when she said that she had completed chemotherapy, wandering around Sandringham, the grounds of Sandringham, with her children, with Prince William as well, and it brought her sanctuary, and I think that's kind of the message she wants to bring across to us.
I also get a sense of what recovery looked like for her, because at the Royal Marsden she was talking about wanting to be out in sunlight and wanting to be wrapped up warm, and that's exactly what this photo documents, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does, and I think we will see a gradual return to public duties, but also at the same time, you need to remember she's mother to 3 very young children and, of course, wife to Prince William. So in her private time, I suspect she is doing a lot of dog walking. We know that she has one of the puppies of her brother, James Middleton's dogs as well. Orla, I think the name is. It's a Springer Spaniel, so I suspect the dog was just out of shot when this photograph was taken. But it's quite a nice coat. It's would you say it's fashionable, Ellie?
When you see we're not allowed to talk about her.
Well, exactly. That's where I was linking to. Exactly. Yes. So it's been reported that Kensington Palace will no longer be releasing the fashion brands that the Princess of Wales is wearing. Now, I was a bit perplexed when I heard that, because I thought they weren't releasing that anyway. But apparently, they very much put their foot down.
You can see why she would want to do that. Bearing in mind everything that she's been through, she wants to keep her focus on her work that she does and the causes that she champions. But don't you think that's a shame for the British brands and the British designers?
Yeah, I think on the one hand, it is going to stop up-and-coming British designers being championed by the Princess of Wales. She is one of the most famous women in the world, so whatever she wears is going to make global headlines. I suspect during important state occasions, we will still have outfit details released, particularly if she's wearing a tiara, for example, at a state banquet at Buckingham Palace. I suspect they will tell us that because, of course, that links back to the late Queen Elizabeth II and the royal family. But for a day-to-day public engagement, I suspect we're not going to get those details. But there are some great royal fans who always find out and put it on the internet.
They will, yeah.
Cameron, thank you. Appreciate that. Here's the Great British Giveaway. Have a go. And we wish you nothing but the best of luck if you are fired up to have a go at that. Remember, not 1 chance to win, but 2.
Yes, very best of luck with that. We will be back from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, bright and early. But up next, 9:30, it is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev. But first,
have a good day.
The weather. Have a good day.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. An area of rain will move east today, accompanied by some gusty winds and blustery showers following, before the weather does turn more settled from midweek. Here's the rain. First thing, though, it's a wet start across central and southern Scotland into northwest England, parts of West Wales. Then it's the turn of southwest England into East Wales. And by the afternoon, the rain is pushing into the Midlands. But ahead of it, some sunny spells for East Anglia in the southeast, a brisk breeze blowing here, and a gusty wind following for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with sunny spells and heavy showers. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 Celsius, so technically on the mild side for the time of year, and in fact it's the mildest day of the week before it turns colder by the end of the week. We do have some clear spells in the far southeast as we end the day. The rain band is approaching, but it's fizzling out. Clear spells for the rest of the UK behind that weather front, but with frequent showers into Northern Ireland, Northern England, and some more prolonged rain and hill snow for northern Scotland. It's going to feel cold in the brisk breeze that's coming in from the west-northwest, and that will push further showers into western and central Scotland overnight, as well as Northern Ireland and Northern England. Meanwhile, skies clear across the southern half of the UK, winds ease, and as a result, it will be a chilly start on Wednesday. A touch of frost here and there, although generally temperatures staying in the low to mid-single figures. We begin Wednesday with the best of the sunshine across England and Wales, 1 or 2 showers into the west, but otherwise largely fine. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland will see frequent showers, especially across central and northwest Scotland, with those showers falling as snow over the hills. But increasingly, the showers will fade away by the end of the day, and that's because higher pressure is arriving from the south, and that's going to bring a much drier and much sunnier end to the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed clockwise just after junction 24 at Denton Island after an accident. There are queues from junction 22 at Hollingwood. On the M6 from Staffordshire into the West Midlands, there are 2 lanes closed southbound. Someone's broken down between junctions 11 and 10 from Cannock to the Walsall and Wolverhampton turn, with delays towards and past there. The M42 in Leicestershire is blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 11 and 10 from Burton upon Trent to the A5 at Tamworth, causing queues. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed eastbound just after junction 10 at Wokingham after an accident, with queues from junction 11 at Reading. In London, the A4 is blocked eastbound towards junction 2 of the M4 at Brentford after an accident causing long delays. Back to Osterley, the M27 in Hampshire is partly blocked eastbound by an accident just after junction 5, the turn to Southampton Airport, with queues from junction 4 for the M3. That's the latest.